podcast is powered by Control. Control is a meal replacement and functional foods business whose mission is to improve the lifestyles of gamers and content creators by making them healthier. Their meal replacement shakes and meal on the go bars are the best tasting products in their category while also giving you all the protein, vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients you need to keep you going. Check out drinkcontrol.com and try out the sample kits to see what all the hype is about.
Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 150. Wow. Of
Jesus.
the XboxEra podcast. We've been doing this too long. That's like many hours. I'm your host, Sik and Nick, and as usual, I'm joined by the wonderful Special Nick.
What's going on?
Hi, bro. And it is our distinct pleasure to have the legendary Cliffy B on the show today. Cliffy, welcome. Nice
Thanks
to
for
have
having
you
me.
here. Man, you've
Thanks
made
so
our
much for
episode
having me.
150 a pretty special one. I know Nick has been hankering at the bit. I think he saw you on a friend of ours, the Iron Lords, and he was like, right, that's it. I'm going to beg on Twitter. And he did.
with that guy King, like, Jesus Christ. Dude was like looking into my soul. I'm like, oh my God. Be my fucking therapist, please. Jesus Christ.
The funny thing is I had replied because I've wanted you on the show for a while, but there's no like official way to get in touch with you. So I had replied to a couple of your tweets, and I assure you get absolutely spammed.
Well, you're the one that made me actually do that tweet where I'm like, who keeps their DMs completely open? Like, how fucking thirsty are you? Like,
yes.
I mean, back before Lauren entered the chat, like I'd be like, "Yeah, what's up, girl? How's it going?" Right? But like, now I'm just like, no, just fuck everyone, just fuck off, you know. Like like you just reply normally on Twitter, but I mean, you know, like if the whole rule of like if you follow somebody, then they can follow you, but like people who just keep the DMs open, I think it's kind of weird, honestly.
I have to admit,
it's risky. It's very risky.
I think I somehow dodge. Like Nick gets to be the person that gets shout on from an XboxEra perspective, right? Like they just target him. I don't know if it's his face. I mean, it is extremely punchable, but they just go for him. My DMs are open. Like I've got my email, my company email. No one. I've never had a bullshit message or a hate tweet. Loving it, loving life.
You're doing something right. You just dodged the entire internet. So
I'm just one of those nice guys that ducks and weaves and doesn't get spotted by anyone. So
you don't get in fights at pubs?
No fights in pubs. I don't drink, so I don't have to go to pubs to get into fights. Thankfully, thank God. But yeah,
what's the name of that district in Sydney? The Kings area, or whatever. Kings Cross.
King's Cross. Yes, King's Cross.
Like it's just a total shit show, apparently. So,
well, you're in Melbourne. Nick's in Melbourne, which he'll probably tell you about if given the opportunity.
Well, we've got King Street, which is the shit show here, where just punch-ons and shit happens. So yeah,
we have Glenwood Avenue, which is basically filled with like 22-year-olds that have already been fucking hammered on Fireball before they even come out. So.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
Well, obviously, I wasn't here last week. I was at a LAN party. I did an old school LAN party.
Oh, awesome!
It was so back in the day, like a lot of my friends, we met playing Halo 2 in 2004, and even now to this day, we're all still pals. There's about 20 of us. You know, people are now married, they've got kids, all this sort of thing. And one of the guys had a big enough house, but as he's had kids and he's ended up doing it up like this, the space available has shrunk. And he pinged me like last year, and he was like, I can't have 12 people at my place anymore. So do you want to do a North v South fest? So we did. So I had 6 people down here. They had 6 people up there. We did a doubles tournament of Halo. I won, which I'm obviously extremely pleased about.
About once a year, my wife does this thing that she calls her estrogen LAN party, where basically in like the room behind me, like she gets like, you know, a bunch of her girlfriends, and we get out the, you know, the cheap little shitty folding tables, and they plug in all their setups, and they just, you know, play games. And I'm just sitting like I'm on Twitter like, okay, have fun, I guess, you know.
I'm not going in.
But I mean, it's such a lost art. Like it amazes me how in Korea the PC bangs, whatever the fuck they call them, are such a thing, but they never really like seem to take off in the States for some reason. And I've always wondered about that. Like, are those a thing in Australia, or like, you know, the cafes?
Yeah, they are here. Yeah.
I don't think there's so
we
much
even had a
here.
couple of people in Sydney tried to start console equivalents. Don't know if it took off to the same level as the PC.
And it's
one.
like, how do you monetize that? Like,
Yeah.
are you going to make the money off like the coffee and the beer and the snacks?
Yeah, and that's what's tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like a weird cafe where everything, like, can you imagine using like the equipment there? Like how greasy and horrible it must be after a while.
And,
Like,
or if they do a PC one and get like keyboard plaque.
you turn it upside down, it's just several layers of beard and skin just come
like some
tumbling
CSI motherfuckers come in with a little vacuum to just like get all your DNA. Like, Jesus Christ.
Run the black light over and check it all the time.
Please.
But yeah, it's actually a fun fact. I actually did visit Australia once. I think it was the Gears 2 time frame. My PR rep at Microsoft emails me and says, "Do you want to come and promote Gears 2 and meet the Pussycat dolls?" And I'm like, "Duh."
Back in the day, when that was allowed.
Yep. So what happened was they flew me out, biz class, thankfully, because I went
a long flight.
I went from Raleigh to New York City to LA, LA to Sydney. It took 24 hours total, right?
Yep.
It's not even like one of those flights like where you can have like 6 drinks and get fucked up and pass out, because you just wake up like, okay, like how many books am I going to burn through? Like how many video games am I going to play in this flight, right? And then, met the Pussycat Dolls, and they were really, really sweet. And then they performed at the back half of the Sydney Opera House. And I remember them singing that song, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. Right. And as they were singing it, like in full fucking glam, like with the pumps on and everything, it started pouring cold ass rain on them, right? And they didn't miss a fucking beat. And like the moment wasn't lost on me. The whole like, wanting to be like, rich and famous and everything like that. And here you have these, 5 or 6 beautiful, talented women who are, in their whole get up, like just trying to like keep their balance and stay, on point with their pitch and things like that. It was just such a hilarious experience, but it was a lovely city. I mean, I didn't cross the harbor bridge though. I didn't have the balls to do it. So, and I didn't go surfing at Bondi Beach either.
Oh man,
which is surprisingly small.
Come to Melbourne. Yeah.
Is Melbourne on the Golden Coast or?
No, we're south. Melbourne's at the bottom.
Okay,
but Melbourne's better. Melbourne's the best.
Here we go.
Here we go. Is it a competition?
Apparently,
Sydney and Melbourne is a full-on competition. Like very, very competitive.
Don't you guys have to love that this entire wonderful country is known for Crocodile Dundee and Mad Max? Like
and Steve Irwin.
This is what Americans think it is, right? Oh, I might, like just like, oh, fuck off, like it's a great place,
Yeah, man. It's one of the only countries. Like I think, like there was a while ago, a friend of mine was working in telecoms, and he was like, I'm moving to Australia, and man, he nearly hooked me up with a job. This was like 10 years ago, and I didn't at the time just didn't have the guts to just be like, fuck it, life, and just go. This was before kids and everything, and
but where were you living at before?
I was just in the UK, so I'm in the UK, Nick's in Australia, so I was just like, oh, it could be really good to just go and do that, but it didn't happen. So I have to visit some point.
Sometime should come down.
It's it's fun doing a podcast remotely, but it'd be nice to come and sit on Nick's sofa.
Insert Vegemite sandwich joke now.
No, Vegemite's bad.
Vegemite's gross.
I just love I love that you had Seamus Blackley on here, and like that he was fucking trolling the shit out of you guys.
Oh my god, Seamus. He said he's like, he could take it. He's from Australia. He's a fucking criminal. He's fine. He can take it.
I've never seen
He's
Nick
a fucking convict.
He was so worried. He was so concerned. Like, and it was funny because I pinged Seamus like the night before or something. I was like, "Hey, buddy, really glad you're coming on. Great to finally catch up with you." And he pinged me and said, "Can you keep a secret?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, Did Nick ask you to contact me? I was like, no, I was just reaching out. And he was like, oh, I've been trolling him for 2 weeks, making him think that I fucking hate him, like being really horrible in all my replies. And then Nick, at that, literally within that 15-minute window, pinged me a screenshot going like, I am never talking to this dude again. I don't know what I've done. Like Nick was terrified that he'd said something wrong. It was glorious. Like even the post, like, when we were just in the pre-show before we went live having that conversation, Seamus was just deadpan, like, are you gonna actually be a reasonable person, Nick, or are you just gonna be a jerk to me the entire show? And I'm like, oh my god. Like, me and Jesse are like,
broke. He was about to give it up before we went live, and I said, nope, just stop talking. And I pushed us live as fast as I could. He started to feel really bad.
Glorious. You could have done the
Jesus,
same, Cliffy.
That background you have right there, though, like with the amount of shit you have, it's like you're like a nerd hoarder at that point. It looks like my wife's like set up in her office.
I have bought almost none of this. It is all my wife buying it, saying, "Hey, let's get you a nicer looking backup." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Well, so
We
you
can hang a green screen
It,
from it.
so is she a nerd as well, or?
She is.
That's the
pretty
funny
big
thing.
nerd.
That's the world in which we live. Where, like, you know, when I was coming up, you know, as I mentioned in my book,
Hey, we'll talk about that in a sec.
it wasn't cool to, like, you know, play video games or be into like comic books and all the stuff. And now, like, you know, the fucking nerds won, dude. You know, and
I think they did.
And then they started turning on each other in a weird way because, you know, every community eventually winds up toxic, in my opinion.
Yes.
Like, it's just like, you know, the times my wife and I've tried to play League of Legends, they're like, "No, go mid, go jungle," and it's just like, Jesus Christ, calm down. Like, I don't know these characters. I'm still learning this fucking thing, you know. And gamers just get so fucking competitive online, you know, and it just the toxicity just comes out, and that's one of the many reasons why I'm kind of like happy just to kind of lay back and be like, okay, I'm just gonna watch this shit show of an industry and see what unfurls.
I literally there are topics and conversations that I watch, and I'm just like not touching that with a 10-foot barge pole because I'll upset someone. And I think there's a lot of people.
Do you want to talk about Hogwarts?
No. No, I don't want to talk about Hogwarts.
My wife's an aspiring streamer, right? And like she's starting to finally get some traction and everything because I mean I married her, so I think she's beautiful and funny and sweet and everything like that. And she's like every week when she goes to stream, she's like, "What should I play? What should I play?" And I'm like, "I'm not your fucking manager, like you know." And she's like, "If I play Hogwarts, when people get mad at me, I'm like, how long you got? Like, you know, do you want to unpack all that stuff with J.K. Rowling right now? Do you really want to do that?" I mean, so just maybe go back to Counter-Strike, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's a genuine concern. Like we covered the game and we were like, look, we acknowledge that she says some abhorrent shit and we don't agree with it, but also it is just a video game. It's not out. It itself is just a product, and that's what we're going to review, and that's the stance we took. But it's always a worry, right? Because while we think in our world that we're being, I guess, reasonable, and this is probably the best way that we can do it. You know, like we are not a political branch. We're not out to do that kind of thing. You feel like you're constantly walking on those eggshells, and you don't want to upset people. That's the thing. You don't want to cause upset. You're not out there.
We're in the era of well, there's two things. First thing is I call it trollitics. Right? Like,
it's a good nickname for it.
Especially in the States, we have so many of these people that are just willing to say fucking anything just to get eyeballs, and then the watchdog groups like retweet them and quote them. I'm like, how do I know who Lauren Boebert is? Like, what the fuck, right? And then the other thing is loneliness is an industry now, you know, and people just have a hard time feeling connected.
I think that's very true.
You know, and like the internet helps and hurts at the same time. And I guarantee there's been like theses like written about this and studies and whatnot. But it's like, you know, like look at OnlyFans, right? And it's not just about boobs and butts. It's about people feel like they want that connection to somebody else, right? And you know, same thing with, you know, DMing people and you know, Twitter followers and things like that. And it's such a weird world in which we live. And for me, being older, to actually be there at the advent of it all, when I had a dial-up modem that was like 300 baud.
Yeah.
It always sounded like two robots fucking their brains out.
Remember Merc?
28.8
MIRC?
MIRC, yep. That was my wife's jam too back in the day. And I remember, you know, ICQ, right?
Yeah, man.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Turns out that uh-oh was kind of prophetic, right?
I mean, you mentioned Gears 2, so I think this is a good segue because I want to, you know, we've got you on. We want to see what you've been up to and talk a little bit about, you know, the past and the future of Cliffy B. And I think, like, I've always wanted to know this because I think back to the 360 years, right? And I was approaching this as a fan, and I remember the hilarious chainsaw through the Gears symbol, and out you were the rock star of Epic Games, here to announce Cliffy, you know, Gears of War. And we've had this conversation on the show, is that Microsoft lacks a certain rock star quality to some of their
developers. We talked about it last week. It's funny that we actually talked about how I mentioned how I feel it's something I've noticed, and maybe it's my imagination. There's always been a link to the biggest, most successful, most impactful games and rock stars at studios. Like
I think apart from Kojima-san, I think that era is dead.
I don't know. Honestly. Neil Druckmann is treated like a naughty dog.
You mean Neil Cuckman? I fucking hate that term with the fury of 1,000 suns.
I had never heard of it till you just said it now.
I've seen it on
fact
Twitter.
That the Last of Us has, a lot of LGBT moments and whatnot. Like, Ellie's gay. Like, oh my god, we can have a gay video game character. It's like, motherfucker. It's like Chris Rock said. Y'all got at least a gay cousin. Like, get over that shit.
I thought that the recent episode with Bill that focused on Bill was probably one of the most fantastic episodes of television.
Episode 5 was great.
Like, they sold that. And I was like, oh my god.
The key is to have the character moments back and forth. Like, a good zombie story is not about the zombies. It's about how humanity becomes shitty to each other when the zombie apocalypse hits.
Yes,
how much we turn on each other. Like, exactly.
Oh, the mist.
During Gears 3, when Karen Travis was writing it, she told me that humanity is just 3 meals away from total anarchy. Like, until you turn on your fucking neighbors and you raid the supermarkets and the pharmacy, and the shit hits the fan, right? It's just like. And zombies are, of course, a great metaphor for a fear of sickness, a fear of death. And then people just become assholes, because inherently we kind of mostly are all selfish assholes when it comes down to it.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a phrase, a quote from Interstellar, where Matt Damon's character is killing or trying to kill
Matt Damon.
Do you know what the origin of that Matt Damon thing? As I understand
because the puppet was so fucked up in Team America.
Yeah, it cost so much to make a puppet, and that one came out fucked up. So they just said, make him go Matt Damon, and that was it.
But what was the Matt Damon quote though? You were going to say?
Oh, there's a line where he says, human beings can be incredibly empathetic and care about their fellow man, but only as far as our line of sight. As soon as it goes beyond what we know personally, we don't give a shit.
Well, then politically, then you get things like othering, like all those people are coming to get us and they're going to take our jobs and all that bullshit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is all bullshit.
But speaking of Matt Damon, though, I'm just, for some reason, I'm just totally hooked on like going down that YouTube rabbit hole of Scotty doesn't know.
I saw you tweet that. That's one of your tweets that I did see. All these years later, and Scotty still doesn't know.
The way he performs it, the way he grabs the mic and he just grabs the girl and they just fucking make out and just go for it. And then the crowd's just losing it. And then Scotty's just standing there like, it's fucking brilliant. Which is also, for the record, it's a great song to do on karaoke.
Good to know.
It's a good film. Euro Trip.
That's classic.
Yes, it's an old school one. But yeah, you started at Epic Games in 1992, right? Am I correct in my memory here? And I think it was because you submitted a game via some sort of competition, right? You submitted some sort of idea to Tim Sweeney.
It wasn't really a competition. I played Jill of the Jungle, and there was like a call for talent. And I read that, and like my little like teenage mind just was like, and like I was making my own 2D adventure games at the time. And
Visual Basic.
Yeah, Visual Basic, yeah. Because I tried C++ and I wasn't fucking smart enough for it. It's like I managed to get some graphics on my Apple IIc, and then when I got my IBM 3D6SX, I was just like, fuck, okay, I guess Visual Basic, and I couldn't figure out how to like make it like an actual like action game, So it's just like, okay, I like Monkey Island and whatnot, so I'm gonna make something that's kind of like a point and click adventure. So I made a couple of those, and it seemed to impress them. And then Jazz Jackrabbit entered the chat. And that changed everything. And I'm fucking still, I literally have a check in my office that I need to like cash, like that I'm still getting from. Shout out to GOG.com for still selling Jackrabbit 1 and 2. I'm still getting a little bit of money off of it. It's not a ton, but I'll take it.
When's the reboot? When are you surprise everyone with the Kickstarter announce?
I would like to do a spiritual sequel that is essentially kind of like first person. But kind of like the PlayStation one game Jumping Flash.
Yeah.
That one? Where, this is advice I actually got from George Broussard, the guy who's one of the main people behind Duke Nukem and Apogee Software back in the day. And he had messaged me and he's like, dude, just make a first person shooter. Just like, Duke Nukem started off with a couple 2D side scroller games and then they did Duke Nukem 3D. And that's the thing is next up on my list to play. And by the way, I'm not playing shit. We'll get there in a second. I'm going back to Metroid Prime, which is a master class in game design, and apparently the remaster is supposed to be great. Amazing. The funniest thing is like when I'm not drinking, I play all the video games. When I'm drinking, I'm like, fuck it, I just want to watch stand-up comedy. Like And thank you for Jim Jeffries, by the way.
Oh god, I love it.
That's all right. Jeffries. He's a classic.
I literally have a framed photo of us in our movie room downstairs.
Oh wow!
Because I mean, the bit about gun control was just so fucking legendary. He's like talking about
that's really permeated, hasn't it?
Yeah,
that gun control bit.
It always surfaces every time there's a big.
Sometimes you get a bit sad, you know, like Jesus Christ. And that's the thing about learning about stand-up comedy. That's called like an act out when he's talking about going to the safe and like, you know, well, what's your mother's birthday? Oh fuck, I don't know. You know, like that whole thing where he runs across the fucking stage, and just his delivery and everything is just fucking fascinating to me. And as much as I will always love video games, and video games will be in my heart, and maybe I'll get around one day to making another one, even in spite of the fact that I'm, 48 years old with a slightly receding hairline. The amount of work involved, it's and then it just like falls, and then it grows in your back, and then your fucking ears. Like, what's up with that?
Oh God, don't remind me about the ears.
Yep. And then it's just like one of those things that, like, I believe making video games in a lot of ways is a young person's game. And that's the thing is, but as me being 48 years old and, grappling with middle age, like I already had my midlife crisis in my Lamborghinis. I'm over all that shit, right? Like I want to learn new shit, right? Like then you look at George Miller, who's still making movies at like 78 years old. And it's like, like that's fucking awesome. Like, so,
man, to go from Babe, Pig in the City, Babe, the original, and Mad Max Fury Road, it's like, that's the same director and writer.
Well, I mean, that's my whole thing about Fury Road is I've talked to so many people who like it because it's a fucking fantastic movie.
Oh, it's one of my top 10 of all time.
People are like, okay, it's a great movie, but the guy with the guitar and the flames, like, what's up with that? And I'm like, that's the fucking best part, motherfucker.
Right? It's literally amazing. It's a giant car chase from back and forth, and that's it.
Exactly.
It knows exactly what it is, and it's all real. And it's man, I could talk about Fury Road for days. Incredible movie.
Like then he did like the black and white version of it and everything too. Like,
oh man, I've got an 86-inch TV, and seeing that in 4K.
Wow, we're flexing hard now, aren't we?
Yeah, so it's like centerpiece, man. But it is I that and Dune and Blade Runner 2049.
Yep.
It's like you just this is like.
But that's the thing is like learning about like film and how things are framed and things like that. And that's one thing I was complaining about on Twitter is like my wife's engagement with her Twitch streams is at its highest when she's playing Gears, right? And I played and beat Gears 4. Gears 5 I played a little bit of, but I wasn't a fan of the way the controls were kind of working with how you aim and hit enemies with friction and adhesion and bullet magnetism and things like that. And then just the camera framing. Like I'm watching her play and like, in Gears 1 and 2 and 3, like, the main, if you're playing Marcus or whoever, like it's the bottom 25% left of the screen when you zoom in. And she's playing as Anya, right? Because she always wants to play as the hottest character she can fucking find. Like she spends like 3 weeks on every character design in every RPG, making the hottest like blonde girl. And then, but I'm looking at it and Anya's like half the fucking screen zoomed in, and I'm just like if I were to consult, like I wouldn't be asking for like a ton of money. Just I think it's just as a PR win, it'd be just huge across the board because people still believe for some reason that I'm some sort of a magical silver bullet. When all I did was I paid attention to the details. I'd go in that press junket, for example, to meet the Pussycat dolls. I come back and the blood would just have vanished from shooting the locust. I'm like, the John Travolta meme. I'm like,
where's my blood at?
No one fucking noticed this. Like we had an entire QA department. Like what the fuck, right? And that stuff. That's the thing about game development that drives you slightly insane. Is it permeates to your real world life a little bit. Like in our office, I have an action figure I finally got of RC from the 1986 Transformers movie. Because back in the day, they didn't want to make a girl Transformer because I'm like, okay, that's weird. And so, I have her in robot mode, just like sitting there. And like sometimes my wife's going to adjust the printer because printers are still fucking terrible. And then like the RC's moved and I'm like, I can tell. It's like that scene in Misery where she's like, the penguin that I have in that pantry is always facing south. Like that's how she knew the movie adaptation that, something had happened. Like, because that was a huge part of my job was to just look at the differences, like that there's an American magazine called Highlights for kids. And, the whole spot the difference thing. And like, that was so much of my job. And it's just like, it drove me a tiny bit insane for years. But I was pretty fucking good at what I did. And do I miss it? Yes, part of me misses it. But, You know, I mean, I'm a creative. You know, I have multiple irons in the fire right now. That's the other thing I learned about other creatives like screenwriters or cosplayers or anything. It's like you always have multiple projects going on at the same time, but you need to have them at like 90% complete, like a handful of them. Because if you have 15 of them that are at 15%, you're never getting anything fucking done.
Yeah.
And so, and my big thing is I know I'm pretty self-aware that I need somebody to collaborate with, right? Like, you know, it's like
when I bounce an idea off someone.
And just because I was a drama nerd in fucking high school, then I could go on stage at Grauman's Chinese Theater and play fucking Gears, and then all the other stages and do all the interviews. Like, you know, even though I was a major creative force behind the franchise, like it still was, you know, Lee Perry, Rod Ferguson, Chris Perna, you know, all of those people that made it, you know, like great. It's like, you know, we were like the Beatles back then. And you think about, in my opinion, the best eras of console gaming are, of the last like 15 or so years are Xbox 360 and PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
we can go back to like the Sega Genesis, right? Like I remember I got a Sega Genesis emulator, and my wife, that's one of the few consoles she hadn't played. And I was showing her all the games. She's like, so basically they're all just side-scroller shooters, top-down shooters, or side-scrolling beat-em-ups. I'm like, yeah, pretty much.
Mostly.
It's like Truxton and Double Dragon and Streets of Rage, you know?
On that subject,
Streets of Rage 2, though, like,
you're a big fan. But Gears 4 and 5, right? So, you know, you step out after Gears 3, you know, you go off to do other things. We'll talk about, God, I've forgotten the development name, and that's terrible of me. Boss Key. We'll talk about Boss Key in a bit, because I know that was a significant period of time for you. And you did some other really cool things that, yeah, I know they didn't all pan out, but you know, when you look at Gears 4 and 5 now, and I know you've kind of already said, you know, some of it I like, some of it I don't. Nick and I have often had this conversation on the show, and there are lots of Gears fans that now say, you know, that are our age that we were then when we played Gears, you know, and Gears 4 and 5 for them are their Gears that would be for us. I hope I'm making sense here. And when we talk about, I wish they would go back to, you know, kind of that spirit of the first one. Yes, it still had that kind of B movie, goofy kind of vibe, right? But it had
Get to the
horror.
chopper.
It had that kind of horror element as well. That kind of like, oh god, this is horrific.
That was Phil Spencer's main note when Microsoft acquired the Gears IP. When he was talking to Rod Ferguson, he said, "Let's get back to some of that horror stuff." Right? And I
really?
used to during Gears 1. I mean, because it was inspired so much by Resident Evil 4, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's the thing is like, you know, it's so easy to slide into full-on Michael Bay action like all the fucking time. Like, and that was actually, in my opinion, the problem with what happened with the Dead Space franchise was, and that's why Dead Space Remastered is having such an amazing reception, because people want that experience. People love to be scared,
That's
and that also that drives YouTube views. You know, you get PewDiePie. His career was built on "Don't get me, Mr. Slenderman." Oh my god, you know, like, and the kids love that shit. Like Five Nights at Freddy, I mean, technically is not a very good game, but the pacing and the jump scares, like the kids just fucking lost it over it.
Yeah. And have you seen Backrooms?
That's the one that's basically the infinite office experience.
Yeah. The infinite inter-transitionary spaces where it's just like you're in a corridor to somewhere, but the corridor is just forever kind of thing.
Yeah. But apparently that's being adapted into a film as well.
It is. And the guy's being hired to direct it. So this guy's like,
and he's like 16, 17. But people are like, okay. People are like, oh my God, he's only 16 or 17. I'm like, yeah, going back to George Miller, like, you know, you should be doing that shit when you're 16 or 17. You have the fucking energy in you to actually fucking do it.
The drive, yeah.
Exactly, to create, as they say in Rent, the ability to express and communicate. And, you know, that was me, you know, back in the day, just like working my ass off, like, you know, like shipping, you know, the first Unreal and Jazz Jackrabbit 2 in the same year. Like, Jesus, I wasn't even doing cocaine. Like, it was just because I wasn't getting laid in high school. Like, what the fuck, you know? I was like, I'll show you. I'm gonna make my video games. Yeah, you know.
It's so fascinating that you mentioned that horror note, because I've always felt that Gears 4 and 5 lost that and didn't have that. Like, I mean, Jesse and I have had constant debates about the original Gears trilogy and then what came after when you left, and my gut feel has been, and I'll die on this hill forever, is that I think Gears 6 should be a full-blown horror game. I think just very linear, tight, focused, intimate horror game.
Well, I mean,
still obviously a shooter.
The term that we would use with the first Gears was intimate combat, because you know we played games like Tribes, where you're like shooting a 3-pixel high character like 8 miles away, right? And that's you know, something that Call of Duty has had to struggle with. That's what iron sights are for. It's so you can actually like zoom in and actually see the enemies that are so far away. We wanted to make sure the combat distance was quite close. But I mean, I went public, you know, I've been, you know, fucking around on Midjourney like everybody is, right? And Chat GPT and all that shit, right? And, you know, my pitch for the Locust for the sequels was that they, you know, wind up kind of evolving. And once emulsion is gone, then they can fully evolve into their final form, because they were grubs. And so then instead of being grubs, they became, you know, I hate to say moths or butterflies, but they sprout wings.
Yeah.
And then the marketing line that I wanted to use was before they came from below, and now they come from above. And you think about, you know, a winged locust coming at you, you know, with vestigial limbs that could stab you, and, you know, flying out and landing, and then you shoot it and it tries to retreat, and then you like crashes down and everything like that. And you can see the subdermal lighting as the, you know, the arms are raised and the wings and things like that. And, you know, we struggled with that at Epic for a while. And then I got so impatient. I just went to Midjourney and just farted out a bunch of art and tweeted it. And people were like, the Gears fans were like, oh, you know, we could have had this. Instead, we have robots, you know.
Yeah, the robots for me are the what loses.
The robots came out of the fundamental decision that we had, where we didn't want to in every sequel just start immediately with the Locust coming back. In Gears 3, we wound up with, you know, the Lambent coming out initially, and then the Locust, you know, were displaced from the Hollow and things like that, right? And the idea is, you know, they didn't want to deal with the whole ethics of humans shooting humans in the sci-fi franchise.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, I always throw out the argument like, well, I mean, that's war. If somebody starts shooting at you, you shoot the fuck back. Like that's, you know, that's driven the American
sales just fine, people.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the thing is that there's that one narrative decision that they did about like choosing like who lives and who dies at the end of, I think it was Gears 5.
It was, yeah.
And I'm like, really? Like, okay. And yeah, I'm gonna bite the fuck out of my tongue right now. So
that's okay. I don't know the whole semi-open world thing, and just I don't know, it just didn't. I don't know. 4 felt a bit forgettable to me. 5 just didn't. Stunning games, like they continued the tradition of just having episodes.
Oh, I can't. Whenever Lauren actually, whenever my wife streams, like, you know, any like Gears 5 and whatnot, like I look at the multiplayer maps and they look fucking beautiful. Like I just catch myself just being like, oh wow,
stunning, stunning.
Do the Kevin Hart meme.
But there's this part of me that yearns for Gears to be what Mad World teased.
It's that sense of sadness and melancholy, right?
Yeah. And isolation.
Yes.
That trailer, like it's still the greatest video game trailer of all time, like untouchable. But I want the Gears game that trailer was showing us. And Gears 1 definitely had its like foot in the door there. But I also understand why it was what it was. But I'd love if Gears 6 was just this really intimate, focused, dark, scary thing. Like
it's funny though, because like I love the, you know, I'm not normally a horror fan. I'm a pussy, right? I have no interest in horror games for the most part. I don't want to be scared. No, thank you. But Gears walks a nice line. I mean, for me, like it was like I can't remember if I laughed or I grinned when Gears 2. They're sinking cities with a giant worm. Like,
that kind of became a meme before memes took over, right?
So good. But I feel that Gears 4 and 5, particularly 5, lent into, I guess, the evolving world of video games where people want gravitas and narration and, you know, a story to really dig into, whereas often the Naughty Dog style, but often because video games previously were like, the story exists to give us cool gameplay elements to build around, right? And it's kind of flipped a little bit sometimes now, and I feel that there are so many games out there that they're not for me. I like a good narrative, but I like to actually play, not just watch a video game movie, right? And I feel like Gears 5 has started to just sneak into that trap. Like it's a stunning game, but the Gears games, particularly for me, have always been right. A couple of good mates.
A lot of this is based out of fundamentally the video game industry has always had an insecurity problem about Hollywood.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I completely agree.
In spite of the fact that video games make exponentially more money, and as much as I'm a huge fucking film buff, I literally have a movie room downstairs, right? Like, and it's one of those things that, like, whenever I would be doing a Q&A when I was at Epic, the number one question that would always come up is, when's the Gears movie coming? Because it's validation for the game developers, but it's like, as much again as I love and really respect film, you take your average like kid these days, and what do they want to be when they grow up? They don't just say if they want to be a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer or a game developer. And it's one of those things that like I said, the nerds won. Like video games took over. And the money shows it, but then like The Last of Us is such a beautiful anomaly, though, of having that balance of good gameplay with narrative, and then Neil Druckmann actually directed an episode and things like that, and it's one of those things that, like, I think they could do a great job with a Gears TV show or film. Some of that's allegedly in production.
It's coming.
We're gonna find out soon.
Movie and an anime style, like Cyberpunk Edge Runners did. A Gears animated full on gore adults series. I mean, I'm all for it.
Then you get somebody like Kojima-san, who's a friend of mine, and I love him, and like he's like a game designer, but he wants to be a film director at the same time, and he's always kind of had that balance. But I'll never forget like being at E3 years ago, and Sony had this enormous wall that was showing this sizzle reel for Metal Gear Solid 2, and then just and Revolver Ocelot shows up, and everyone's just heads are fucking exploding. And I think if finding that right balance between the push and pull of the player controlling the game versus the game controlling the player, right? And how much of the story happens around you versus how much of the story is just told, right? And I think one thing is, we got so much shit for our dialogue and Gears being a dude bro game back in the day. And, once in a while I'll just go to YouTube and I'll just look up scenes like, Marcus finally killing Mira, Dom dying, just all of that. And just the comments are all just like it really, really, it struck a chord with an entire generation. And that's the thing. It's like, if you can make, that's, the $1 billion question that everyone always asks, can a video game make you cry? And then I go back to Phantasy Star 2 back in the day when Nee, the purple-haired girl, wound up dying because, she was like a clone of Me First and whatnot. And that wrecked me as a kid, and like, if you can pull that off, you can affect an entire fucking generation. And that's the thing is I can always guess somebody's age who, I have the best kind of fame because I only get recognized once in a blue moon. And then it's like, oh my God, I grew up with Jazz Jackrabbit, Unreal Tournament, Unreal Tournament 2004, Gears of War, blah, blah, blah. And then it's one of those things to just know that, this medium of video games has the ability to really impact people in a good way, and like the same thing in the US, especially with America. In America's military industrial complex is the amount of soldiers that would come up to me and tell me when they were deployed, they managed to actually have an Xbox 360 there, and they would play the crap out of it. And I'm like thinking, why? And it was escapism. They're in this military situation where they can't control anything. They have to just take orders. And so then they want to control the game. They want to be the ones in control, which is why my book is called Control Freak. Oh, boom. That's right. I did it.
What a great segue. So, I mean, let's talk about that, right? So you left Epic, you formed after a little break, you formed Boss Key Productions, right? And I think it was originally called, and keep me honest here, it was codenamed Blue Streak.
Yeah, Blue Streak, which was after the first Transformer that I ever had back in the day.
Of course it was.
And then the internet,
there's a theme coming here.
The internet just kept like quoting like the Martin Lawrence movie, thinking they were funny. Like, okay.
Typical. But it eventually became Lawbreakers, right? And I know you've probably either answered a question on this, and I know you've probably certainly copped flack from Xbox fans over the years, right? But it never came to Xbox. It only launched on.
No, I've said it before. So I partnered with Arjan Brousse, the Dutch programmer that I did Jazz Jackrabbit 1 and 2 with. And he's brilliant. He's very intense. Just still a great programmer and a great guy. But he was just looking at the numbers at the time. Sony had a much larger install base.
Oh, it's pretty obvious.
And I've admitted it before that it was a mistake not appealing to Xbox fans, putting it on PlayStation. But the thing is when the studio ultimately folded, the internet thought it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty harsh.
And meanwhile, I fucking, I lost my Australian Shepherd. I had to put him down. That's a shrine behind me to him and everything like that. And I am still happily married, but I cared about that fucking studio.
Yeah, I can imagine it's your baby, right?
Well, I mean, I knew all of my employees. I knew their spouses. Their dogs would come to the office. Their kids would come to the office, right? And I'm still friends with a bunch of them to this day. But the internet still, because I can and sometimes am a brash, confident, cocky, whatever term you want to use. They're just like, you fucking failed. And the joke that I made, when I did the Iron Lords podcast, is like, hey, even Will Smith had, Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
And the kicker was Lawbreakers was a fucking good game.
And that's like, is there not a world and I realize there's things that are server based, but is there a world I've seen it in some games where the codes just put up and modders, go nuts, bring it back to life, do whatever you like. Is that ever a possibility for Lawbreakers? I mean, because it was a really good looking game.
It's up to Nexon. But the thing is there's so many other little things I see in so many other games that are doing rather well. I look at footage of Apex Legends. I'm like, that looks a lot like Lawbreakers. Okay. And then, everyone's like, oh, there's all this mobility in Call of Duty now. And it's crazy. And I'm like, Lawbreakers and Titanfall, hello.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah. And so it's the thing is, it's such a fucking crapshoot in the gaming industry right now, but what might go viral, can you get so-and-so to stream it, right? And that's the thing about my wife stressing about her Twitch stream. I'm just like, go to the top page of Twitch, because for most of the time, if you're not on the top front page of Twitch, you're dead in the fucking water. And that's the reality of the industry in which we live now. And that's why I'm like, I'll be over here doing Broadway shit. So
God, it's so frustrating to hear. I'm frustrated for you. I remember at the time, and maybe that's the problem with going on forums like Gaff or etc. I remember saying at the time of Lawbreakers, my first thought was, how are they not releasing this on Xbox? I understand that the PS4 has massive market share, but that's not the market. These are the exact words I said. Obviously, didn't know you at the time. Cliffy B, whether he likes it or not, rightly or wrongly, is synonymous with Xbox, thanks to the impact Gears had.
That's fair dinkum, mate.
You may hate it, and that's fine. But you are synonymous with Xbox because of Gears. Gears' impact was massive. Xbox, whether they like it or not, are the shooter box. That's what they are. That's why Titanfall 1 was the success it was. That didn't launch on PS4, and it was still hugely successful on Xbox One. I thought Lawbreakers had to come to Xbox. It's Cliffy B's new shooter. Why wouldn't Xbox fans
because we ran out of fucking money, right?
Yeah. And that's
that's the thing. It's right? When you employ people, 60, 70 plus people at your studio that have families that moved from places like LA and Seattle and San Francisco to Raleigh, North Carolina, uprooted their families, found new schools for their children. And then you're sitting there watching your burn rate every month. And it's just people would love to troll me about it. I'm like, call me next time, motherfucker. You get $40 million out of a Korean company and found your own video game studio and make 1.5 games. That's the thing. It's get up every day and make shit. That's the thing. It's a tattoo I got on my left arm is from a classic American children's book called A Harold and the Purple Crayon. And, it says create. And that's the thing. It's, for me, if I'm not making something the biggest high that I get these days is some of the projects I'm working on, that if I get, a new logo or a new character or a new environment, the first thing I do is turn to my wife and I'm like, oh my God, look at this. What do you think? And then she's like, oh, maybe tweak this a little bit. Right. And she's working on her own stuff too. And, that's the thing is, one of the things I do miss, and I do and I don't, is just being in that environment of these brilliant nerds. Imagine since being a teenager for 25 plus years, being amongst these people that can create an 8 million polygon character or texture something or code, right? And then you have to exist in the real world where you're sitting in a pub and next to you hear, "Oh my God, do you see how drunk Becky was at the wedding? She was totally gonna fuck Brad in the bathroom." I'm just like, fuck.
Sign me out. Do you
I'm just
get
like, can you talk about Israel versus Palestine? Talk about nanotechnology. Talk about the space telescopes. Like talk about
interesting things.
The meaning of life. Like, who's your favorite stand-up comedian? It's actually a quick funny story. Is I was out with one of my friends in a little downtown Raleigh, and a friend of his is this young woman who's like 23 or so, right? And I started talking about stand-up comedy, and she's like, "Yeah, have you heard of this guy Dave Chappelle?"
Oh,
and I'm like. Then I'm like, I don't want to live in this fucking world anymore. It's just like, I think one of my biggest issues is that I've just always been a fucking data vacuum, just absorbing like everything that I can, not just video games, like film, TV, and all that stuff. And, I sat there with my wife one time, and she's like, "Okay, who directed this?" And I'm like, Milos Forman, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, "How do you know this?" I'm like, because I wasn't popular in high school and I read every issue of Entertainment Weekly for 20 years. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I have a regular game called where you'll just be in the topic of conversation and a film quote or something relevant will come to mind and you'll say it. And the game is between all the friend group is name that film, and no one's allowed to Google, and you have to just sit there and usually someone gets it. But it's just people just I don't know. The average person, people are stupid. Person can be clever, but people as a general group, fucking irritating.
I fucking love that quote.
It's such a good quote. It's such a good quote.
And then Silicon Valley comes up with this line like the wisdom of the crowd. I'm like, really? This is how America got Trump. This is how America got Trump, people.
But speaking of irritating people, like and the closure of Boss Key and the impact it had on you and your life, right? That internet bully, the armchair developer that thinks they know better, that thinks they know the answer.
Just that multiplayer in a week,
right? Do you? I mean, is that one of the reasons, as you step back and all of that unfolded and you finally was like, "Yep, I'm out." Did that contribute to that? Like to just not go, go work on, I think I read a rumor that you were offered Silent Hill at some point.
Yeah, that was, Kojima-san approached me about that at one point.
That's a pretty big get, right? But you said flattered, but no, right? And moved on.
I like making new IP.
You want to be the new create, right? Not the redo.
The only there's very, very few established IPs that I would ever consider working on. And towards when Boss Key was starting to spiral downward a little bit as those coffers were emptying, I was approached by a programmer that I worked with named Aaron Loeb, who was working at Fox at the time. And he's like, "Do you want to make an Aliens game?" And I was like, okay, that's it's basically like that and Firefly. Like those would be like the two established IPs that I'd ever consider working on, because Aliens is as close to a perfect game. I mean, I'm sorry, a movie as imaginable. And there's so much.
You feel it's better than Alien? I have to know, because I do. Aliens.
Well, we're talking about the suspense, Alien Isolation kind of vibe versus the it's this time it's war.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, very different movies.
That goes back to Gears 1 with the horror, and Gears 2 being more Michael Bay, and Gears 3 being full Michael Bay, even though Michael Bay's Transformers movies are fucking trash. But then
was his best movie.
Well, then Disney gobbles up fucking Fox, and then just the deal just goes south. And then I had the Dragon game that I was pitching, and got turned. I went to literally Microsoft. I went to 2K, I went to EA, all of them, and they all turned that one down. And then we had VR games we were pitching too. And don't get me going in the VR rant, because that's a long one too. The thing is sometimes you just need to know when to step out of the sun, because you keep getting burned, and I just all of there's like a YouTube video talking about how Lawbreakers was stupid and released in a crowded market that got like 5 million fucking views, and I'm just like, okay, is it really that hard to show up and be like, "Hey, what's up, guys? Like and subscribe, smash that like button, blah."
Man, as people that run a YouTube channel, if you ever get the chance to peruse, we're so against the algorithm. We
actively to our own detriment fight against it.
But everybody on the internet is jockeying for this position with all of the algorithms from TikTok to YouTube to fucking it. And it's you hit a certain point where you hit a certain age, you just want to have a good night's sleep and a good shit, you know?
Well, now that you mentioned that, I'm not going to let you get away now. What was your alien game going to be?
Ooh. What would you
I have to now
elevator
know what your
pitch?
alien game
Elevator
is gonna be.
pitch.
Take Alien 3 and all that shit and throw it out.
Yep.
There was a comic that came out. I can't remember who put it out. That was Earth War or something like that.
Oh, when they made one egg made it to Earth, and it kind of like everyone was fighting.
Yeah,
I remember
but
reading that.
basically it would be Newt's story, right? And then you'd have she'd have her own AI, synth with her that was named Casey, because Casey, if you recall, was the name of her little doll that she lost. And then I can't remember Michael Baine's character. I can't remember his character's name. Hicks. Yeah, Hicks would be her armorer, and her dispatch would be Ripley. And it would be to take place in a complex in somewhere outside of Colorado, in which they've done enough experiments on the aliens with their DNA to create, wackiness ensues, right? That was kind of the super high level for it. Dude is, an FPS, but that's the thing is, that actress who played Newt, she, after that was her only acting role, she fucked off and decided to just go teach for the rest of her life. It's fucking crazy. Wow. But that's the thing. It's just like, Sigourney Weaver has such a gravitas about her. It's like, at the end of Cabin in the Woods, when she shows up and you hear her voice, right? Like, it was also such great postmodern horror too, right?
Yeah, it was brilliant.
But yeah, so I mean, that was kind of the high level. But I mean, like, if you just look at the pacing of Aliens as a film, it's just amazing. And that's one of the things I think we got really, really great with the Gears that I worked on. Let me get that. Was the pacing, and so much of life is fucking pacing, right? It's conversation, it's dialogue, it's stand-up comedy, it's being a good lover to someone, for fuck's sake, knowing how to read the fucking room. It's so funny because back in the day when the Unreal Engine was kind of gestating, and I'd be helping sell it with Mark Rain. He did he called it his hut demo, where he'd make a little demo, and I could just feel like the room, just like people were kind of like not, I'm like, just give me the fucking controls, and that's the thing. It's that goes back to stand up, and that's my whole thing lately is like I love learning all these other systems. I feel like I learned how to make video games. It's also really funny with people who are younger who don't know like the history of my career, and like once in a while they'll troll me on Twitter. Then I send them to mobygames.com and I'm like, hello, like, do your fucking homework, dude. Like and subscribe. That's right. I fucking said
it. Did you enjoy Alien Isolation?
I actually didn't get around to playing it.
Oh, man, you have to.
All right.
It's so
after Metroid Prime. Okay.
It's Alien Isolation is a fantastic game. It's so good. Like,
didn't they do a VR version of it, or?
There is a VR mod for it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there is.
My experience of Alien Isolation was, wow, they really recaptured it. Oh my god, the alien's here. Turned off my Xbox.
Oh, it's scary. The alien's hunting you down the entire time. The xenomorph is hunting you down the entire time. And it was fascinating. One of the developers was on Twitter and he started a thread about how the AI cheats and explained how it all works. And I was just fascinating.
Oh, there's entire YouTube videos of like the Nemesis from Resident Evil and how he like stalks you. Yeah. Same thing with Resident Evil 7 and that the patriarch of the family and the kind of the way like, like the second the door closes and like then he's just gone and all that. And like so much of it is sleight of hand in video games.
Yeah.
That's awesome stuff. I love reading that sort of stuff. It's so good.
Well, that's the one tip I gave to Randy Pitchford for the Borderlands franchise was in the Gears of War games that I worked on. The last bullet in your magazine was always about 20 to 30% stronger. So you'd always have that, monster coming down on you and you kill it. And then you reload like, oh man, I can't believe I just pulled it off. And we're behind the scenes. Like,
that's cool.
We helped you out a little bit.
That's so clever. That's such a clever little piece of design. But okay, so... you're now in the era of Cliffy B is no longer making games, right? And you've done some bits and pieces, but your biggest focus now, and I think you've spent quite a while writing it, right, is your story, your journey through video games, right? which is available now, I believe. Is that correct? Or is it?
Yeah, I think it's selling about 6 copies, so I'll take that.
Man, I told some friend of mine's that they were coming in and was like, "Oh, awesome! I've got his book pre-ordered." So,
Thank you.
It's Control Freak, right? Is that a reference to your actual personality? Would you describe yourself as a control freak? Or
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, just full of mission.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to, the whole thing about my RC toy that I wound up getting from Transformers. And my wife is fucking with the printer and she moves it over 6 inches and I can fucking tell, and that's the thing is game development is so great. But it's the thing is when you start learning good UI design, when a bad UI can just completely and totally fucking ruin everything. Right.
Hello, Halo Infinite.
Yeah, I'm friends with a lot of people that worked on it, and not launching with co-op on that. Really?
Man, I had the distinct pleasure of being invited out. I flew out to Microsoft and worked on Forge for a couple of years with the 343 dev team before it launched, right? And funnily enough, and I have to have an excuse to show it off, right? They sent me this.
Oh, nice.
One of only 12 in the world, designed by their in-house designer. But look, the light is blue like the Forge monitor. For
brilliant.
Making levels, which is really cool.
That's
Right?
cool.
And the thing is, as much as I love this, and I don't know, XboxEra community chat, I'm thinking as much as this is like a cool memento for me, I play with an Elite pad and I can't go back from the bumpers, right? So I might do some sort of giveaway for this because this is seriously.
Do you have the Duke?
I don't have the Duke. No. Nick is a big fan of the Duke. He helped bring it back.
Seamus, I'm credited with bringing back the Duke. With
no
Seamus.
Shit.
Yeah. That was. I just tagged Seamus one day and Phil on Twitter. I'm like, the anniversary of the OG Xbox is coming up. Why don't you guys do a run of Duke controllers? And Seamus was like, "Holy shit!"
Well, I mean that's the thing about social media. As terrible as it actually is, you never know what's going to happen. If you tag the right person, who's going to reach
at the right time.
Yeah,
well.
And then so then I'm like, okay, I got this book to promote, and I have other stuff coming out soon. Okay, I guess I'm gonna get a little bit more into the public eye. Just dust off all that and do my verbal exercises before I go on a podcast and whatnot. And it's just I don't know, being a public figure in video games and technology. It's kind of fucking exhausting. I remember I was sitting there at PAX East at the hotel lobby bar because that's where everyone winds up hanging out at the end of the day. And a friend of mine, Chloe Dykstra, her and I were catching up, and she, somebody came up and wanted to get a photo or shoot the shit, recognizing me from my work. And she's like, I don't know how you do it. And back then, and I mentioned this in the book, it was nonstop caffeine and Claritin D. And just, heart disease runs in my family. And I'm like, it's a miracle I didn't have a fucking heart attack. Because you're basically, stress. I mean, all the stress, it's not just enough to sit there and work 12 to 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. Then you have to fly to Boston or San Francisco and do a million interviews and demos and then fly back and then ship the game. Doing dual duty on that, it's fucking exhausting. Brutal. And that's why, these days, if I don't have to get up before noon, I'm not fucking doing it. I'm like, fuck that shit. I got two dogs and a weighted blanket and my wife's big old butt up on me. I'm not going fucking anywhere.
I know, but this is just me. This is my personal thing now. I just think it's sad that we've lost you. The game development has lost you.
Okay, so earlier when we first started, talking, you were talking about, getting a little gray hairs, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many game developers that I know that I've run into in public in general that, it's kind of like, when Obama was president of the United States, where, when he first took office and my fellow Americans are, and then the way that can age you and the way that stress can mess with you and the diet, and your gut bacteria gets all fucked up. And I have multiple ideas that I think could be turned into multiple video games at this point. But I think back about sleeping underneath my desk and I'm like, Danny Glover in fucking Lethal Weapon. I'm too old for this shit, and so.
Yeah, but is there no way for you to just start small and build back up so you don't have to deal with that shit straight away?
If I could go back in time with Boss Key, I would have made hired maybe 15, 20 people and made a little platform game, because I mean, not as good as Celeste because Celeste was just, so fucking good. But that's the thing is we tried to make just like a AAA game over the course of like 3 years, which was too much too soon. We were all learning how to work together, right? And again, we learn lessons as we move forward. And one of the things that I have, in my arsenal or whatever the term would be, is knowing how the sausage is made. So now, as I'm creating multiple new intellectual properties, multiple worlds, I think about it like, okay, what's going to be the game mechanics that come out of this? Like, that's the thing is, I've spoken before about, how accidentally Batman winds up being a fucking amazing IP to make amazing games out of. You look at, the Arkham games and whatnot, and what Rocksteady did, and they're, he's not only kicking ass, but he's also a detective, right? And you have all this colorful, rogues gallery of bad guys, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's just, if somebody wants to just come and throw some money at me, you never know, right?
Yeah, we'd say the same thing. We'll do anything.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I don't know. I've always just found it, and I don't use the word sad in the way it initially sounds. I mean sad as in it's sad to lose a talented person in an industry.
I mean, do you find it kind of funny? Do you find it kind of sad the dreams in which you're the best of your
glorious. That was good. I mean,
that's the thing is I'm open to consulting. There's a couple things I am consulting on, but there's just different IPs that I'm making now. One of them is a comic book, and which hopefully will be debuting at San Diego Comic-Con in a few months. And learning that process has been utterly fascinating. And it's the same thing with like learning how the restaurant business works and hospitality. Just understanding the machinations of various systems. Because what I've always said is the world is just systems. It's up to you in this matrix, because I do believe we're in the fucking matrix, to figure out how to solve those systems and how to figure it out. And whenever I check my inbox and I get, concept art from one of the various things I'm working on, I'm over the fucking moon, like showing it to like all of my friends, like some of my friends who work at Squatch Games and whatnot, who are artists and whatnot, just like, what do you think? And they're like, I don't know if I like the logo. I'm like, okay, I'll send that back with some notes, and like, that's the director in me, right? That's, that's the thing is, the get up out of bed and be like, okay, here's how shit's going to go right now. Right. And then you realize like to do that, you kind of have to be a bit of a dick. You have to kind of, you can do the soft sell. Like, Rod Ferguson was so good at the soft sell, right? Like he could convince the entire team to work all those crunch hours and things like that. For me, I think, I'm either completely too nice or a complete sociopath. So like finding that balance as a creative is fucking difficult. But
I think the focus on crunch now though is there has been so much focus on it. Like I'm sure it still happens, right, across the board, even at the companies, the bigger boys like the publishers and the platform holders that say, "Oh no, we don't have enough." It happens, right? But I think
so. My question for you guys is: do you think AAA is sustainable?
No.
Like you look at the graphical set that people want,
not the way it's going.
The feature set, like
nope.
It's just unbelievable. Like and like that's the thing is like when I had my own studio. Thankfully, when I worked at Epic, they didn't let me see the behind the scenes of the financials because that nearly drove me crazy at Boss Key.
Wow.
Like just to know, it was like 24 with the clock counting down, and that's the thing is like that's why I love indie stuff.
They're my preferred. I prefer smarter,
as I get older,
smaller experiences. It takes a lot for me to like a AAA game, and I find that AAA games just become. They all become the same. Like you might get a unique setting or a cool story beat or something like that, but for the most part, here's what would have been a traditional hack and slash or an action RPG, but no, we're going to add skill trees into the FPS, and it all becomes RPG light. And then I'm bored. The world's open.
And now it has to be a game as a service. Now there has to be microtransactions. And now there has to be seasons now.
Yeah.
I'm like, bitch, that used to be DLC. What the fuck? Like who rebranded that shit?
Yeah, and I think it's because of the scope and scale of AAA. Developers can't get what they used to be able to get done. You think back to the 360 generation. I think one of the reasons it was so good. That is a generation where we had 3 incredible Mass Effect games in one gen. Right, they took like 2-3 years apiece. And the Gears game, that era is gone. It's no more because you look at. I mean,
So are we just sounding like a bunch of grumpy old men right now?
yes. That's
a little
part
bit.
of our prerogative of being grumpy and old.
That's
isn't
okay.
it?
I mean, that's my whole thing. It's like looking at the state of the industry in regards to AAA, and that's why I'm kind of like, no, I don't want to do that. And that's why I've just been exploring all these other things that I can do creatively because I still need that outlet, right? But being responsible for we have this Hydra development method that they've been using to make Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed and whatnot, where there's 8 studios that are working so hard to bring you this experience. It's just like at some point, is it sustainable, right?
Yeah.
But see, what I love about the industry today, and again, that's probably my age, and you may feel similar, is I feel we're in this amazing age of, I guess the only way I can think of to term them is AAA indies. Like,
they
call a lot of people call it AA or mid tier, right? And mid tier is an insult sometimes, but in a good way, right?
But I'm talking really high-end equivalents of Shadow Complex. See, I adored Shadow Complex, and I look at stuff like Ori. I look at stuff like Benedict Fox, which is coming soon. I am more in that space now because obviously growing up, that's what I played on the Mega Drive and Master System. And so when I see stuff like Shank, do you remember Shank from Clay?
Oh, yeah, the little side scroller.
Yeah, and they made Mark of the Ninja.
Kind of like Shovel Knight or
Yep.
God, what was that ninja one that came out a while back?
Mark of the Ninja.
I don't know if it was that one. There's one. No, it wasn't Shadow. There's
Sekiro.
No, it was a really tight platformer. So it's like people are like, "What are you playing?" And it's just like, I just want cool platform games on my Switch.
Yeah.
You guys saw the sales of the Switch. Switch is
Strider in the chat. Thanks, Zach Riley. Is it Strider?
Strider.
That was a bit ninja-y.
They did redo Strider in 2013. But
I think so.
I have a sneaking suspicion Cliff's thinking of Mark of the Ninja.
Yeah, I think
which is 2D, hand-drawn animated.
Metroidvania.
You work in shadows like Metal Gear Solid where there's a cone of vision and Mark of the Ninja was just perfect. It was amazing. But
that's the thing is the platform games just cut right to the chase. And that's the thing is in regards to narrative elements, Celeste had some narrative elements, but it was very light.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just it's like they say in film, cut to the chase. It's just cut to the gameplay.
I can't stand the worst bits in all Gears games for me is when the 2 giant fingers come up and the game
forces me to walk slowly
while it loads in whatever it's loading.
You know why? That's exactly why we did it.
Of course it is.
Loading times.
Yeah, I mean, but the fact that still happens now, and I'm like, I can't.
We called it a walk and talk. Hang on, I'm trying to check my email here in regards to
the slow walk and talk. I can't stand it. I hate it so much.
But if I think about recent games, right? We talk about AAA. There has been very few AAA games where I'm like, yes, I have to have this now. I've played Hogwarts, I've played Atomic Heart, I've played Wolong. And Wolong isn't probably in that AAA sphere, right? But I'm just like, I just run out of steam. But then I think of stuff like Vampire Survivors, right? Which looks like it could have come out 20 years ago.
I was hooked on that for a month.
Oh my God. As a piece of gameplay design, incredible. You are the bullet, go. And there's been tons of clones. I've seen Deep Rock Galactic. They've just announced Deep Rock Galactic Survivors, which is basically Vampire Survivors with dwarves. Okay.
I'm sitting here in Vampire Survivors and unlock this character that's just a fucking tree. That can barely fucking move, but has great AOE kind of effect. And I'm just somehow getting to a super high level. What the fuck is going on?
It's insane.
Right now, right?
It's such a good game. But Hi-Fi Rush is probably the first AAA, right? Because visually, it's cartoony graphics and shit. But from a technological perspective,
it's gorgeous.
It's incredible. What they've done with Unreal.
Because they stylized it.
Right. And those are the games that never age. That will look gorgeous in 10 years' time, 20 years' time. It will still look incredible.
Nights into Dreams and Beautiful Joe and all those classic ones, right?
Sea of Thieves is another one that still looks gorgeous, and that's coming up on time.
I'm reviewing one right now. I can't talk about the game, but there's a game coming out called Clash Artifacts of Chaos by Ace Team out of Chile.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah. So they did Xenoclash, and this is a follow-up to that. So that's the Clash part. And that game just uses Unreal Engine, but they're stylized hard line drawings of it, it's one of the best looking things I've ever seen.
But yeah, and that's the thing. There's too much desire to look realistic, and I mean, look at The Last of Us, right? The Last of Us was remastered, and then it was remade. I don't know, like,
remade,
why?
remastered again,
because people will pay for it. But like, because what looks great in 2013 when you're trying to achieve photorealism, well, guess what? Times have moved on. It's no longer the sexiest game in the world, but those stylized games still gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Is like,
I was going to say there are exceptions. Yeah, sorry, there are exceptions.
One of my favorite things I love to do is go to like a barcade, right, and like just play the retro ones, and just like, because back then we couldn't depend on graphics, right? Like you had to make the simplest shit possible, like Qbert. Like you think about Qbert, it's like, okay, all right, so here's this like this weird orange character that like is jumping around, and then there's like the spinny things, and it's all like kind of like an isometric angle. Like, okay, like how much cocaine were they doing back then? Like, Jesus Christ.
But there is something to be said about an art style that. So I always felt that's why Gears 2 and 3 on Series X, how they were X enhanced, still hold up today. Those games weren't, or at least I felt like they weren't necessarily going for realism as a look. There was a very distinct visual style behind Gears.
Especially in the first one, it was very desaturated, right? To the point where people were calling it Gears of Brown and all that shit, right?
Yeah.
And then that wound up influencing an entire console generation for games like Killzone and whatnot, right? Like, we always called it the Zack Snyder 300 look, right?
Yes, but even in the architecture, though, like everything, there was a style to Gears that I felt, again, this is just something I felt observing as a player, was that it wasn't necessarily going for realism per se, but there was, I don't know, there was a look about it where the team at Microsoft, Jason Ronald's team, didn't touch anything. All they did was kind of really show what was already there in Gears 2 and 3. And now you see it at 4K 60 on a Series X, and it still looks incredible 15 years later.
I mean, the thing is, at the time, I was tired of the brutalism style of architecture that had become prevalent in games, and it became so prevalent because of the low polygon counts, right? And then once we went up with bump maps and spherical harmonics, we could actually like really depict that kind of look. And then it all comes back to I was on a press junket. It actually wasn't a press junket. Actually, it was just a trip to London. I remember just looking at all the architecture there and just falling in love with it, and that's the saying is the Yanks always love that old school architecture, right?
Well, London's a unique city, right? Because it grew over so many hundreds of years. You've got this brilliant combination of like that pub's 400 years old and this skyscraper's like brand new. It was built last year, and you just get this weird spread of stuff. Whereas I find American cities are just big grids. Just laid out, like it's all been planned ahead of time,
and a lot of fucking traffic. Hey, so guys, I gotta get going soon, but do you want to do this name a game show thing?
Right before we do, one last thing. The book's available now. I'm going to get the folks to put the link in the chat. Give us an elevator pitch to the chat why they should probably check it out, just so that they know it's there, it's available, what it deals with.
Because ultimately, it's a love story. It's a love story about a forlorn nerd that basically found his way as an industry grew up as he grew up, and then ultimately led to him finding true love at the end of the day.
Oh man!
Yeah. Well, plus, I got molested too, so there's that.
Oh god! Yeah, what in the game games industry?
No, it's in the book. It was a dude I met on the internet in like 1990. So there's that. I believe. If you're a person who's somewhat of a public figure and you've had something like that happen to you, if you can speak about it publicly, I think you help people who've been through that. Yeah. And so, plus it's also one of those things, it's, it's ancient history, but, I like to joke about it now because it makes people uncomfortable.
Well, I was in Tenerife at one of those big public aqua parks, and like this really big Spanish guy. I was like 12, like groped underwater, and I remember shooting straight up me, like I was with my grandparents. I was like, "Granddad!" Like this dude and this guy, like he was huge, and he was just like barreled to the other side of the park and just left. But I was like, "What the?" Weird. It's crazy people.
And here we are today.
Yeah.
Well, look, don't worry about the game show thing because we've got a bunch of our community that have asked that want to know stuff. Have asked us some questions. Super chat.
We've
I'd
got
probably
super chats
rather
flying in.
Yeah, I'd
we'll try
probably
and get
rather
through
just
it.
get the questions from the community, like that want to know stuff. The game show's not important. We can do that later.
Okay.
That's fine. Now some of these I have no idea. I am Vion. No, I am Yvonne. Cliff, tell us about your Sony exclusive clauses. I have no idea what that means.
He's probably referring to Activision Blizzard, and Microsoft recently won a subpoena to get a load of Sony paperwork and their privacy clauses on exclusivity and blocking Game Pass and yada yada. So he's probably making a pun about that.
I wouldn't have the vaguest idea about any of that.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a fair answer.
Yeah,
it's fair.
Yeah, fair dinkum. Emil, £20 super chat. Hello. I don't know if that question was asked. Let me try. Will there be opportunity where Cliff would share some interesting and specific details about Epic's vision for their Gears 4 before
they sold it to MS?
Ways with MS?
Yeah, I can tell you, I wanted to actually consider going first person with it.
Whoa! Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, can you imagine chainsawing a locust in first person?
Yeah, I can.
Wow.
That would have been cool.
Jason, the biggest. This gentleman here is a friend of mine, the biggest Gears fan I know. Jason, $30 super chat. Cliff, how cognizant? What?
Sorry, I was going to say 30 Australian dollars. That's like 1,000 American dollars.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dingoes.
Yeah. How cognizant was the dev team during Gears 1 to 3 of the Nasha meta? Was there a reluctance to adjust the balancing because of how revered it was in the community?
Yeah, we fought that for a while. That's why, with Gears 3, we put in the double barrel sawed-off shotgun. And we just, it was supposed to be a game that's about the chainsaw gun, but everyone just goes to the Nasher.
The Nash.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's, gamers, when they're trying to win, especially online, it's all about efficiency. How quickly can I explode this motherfucker into tiny bits, right? And then we kept fighting back at it. We introduced like stopping power in like one of the Gears games, everything like that. And like, just at some point, give the people what they fucking want,
Yeah.
Well, he follows it up with an $8 super chat. To this day, the best feeling / satisfying weapon in any game. Yes, Jason's a massive Gears fan. Massive.
He's not he's cool blowing someone up with the Nasher. It's just like,
the Doom shotgun. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Fair.
Halo pistol. The Halo pistol for me is just, man, that thing was awesome. Kaya Sante, $5 super chat. I think I speak for us of a certain age group when I say we're proud to be a part of the Danny Glover gang. We're getting too old for this shit.
We're all going to be sitting in a locker room. We're not too old for this shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me check on my hemorrhoids.
Yeah.
Wearing a girdle.
Is still good. Somnia, just wanted to thank Cliffy for being awesome. Met you at a G stop, so GameStop.
I mentioned GameStop.
Yeah, during Gears release, you were the most down to earth of everyone we met.
I'm sorry, the internet thinks I'm a giant cunt, though.
Hey,
there it is.
I think that might be the first C-bomb dropped by a guest
on the
ever.
show. Yeah.
So proud of you, Cliffy, right now.
We've
my heart
alluded to it with "See you next Tuesday," but never just full out said it.
Glorious.
Okay, so we've got a few community questions for Cliff. We'll go through those before Cliff has to go, and then Cliff can jump off.
Then we can release you, sir. There's not too many, to be honest. So
I'll just go through the ones that are for Cliff because there's a couple that.
The very first one from Hytham, he's only like the first sentence. After that, it's not about Cliff, so you can just read the first sentence or two.
Just the first.
Okay, Hytham G. So Cliff, my favorite part of you was you in the Nintendo documentary called "Power to the Players," along with Phil Spencer and Reggie Fils-Aimé. That was my favorite part of the documentary you were in. And curious.
That's it. Then the rest is just questions that he's not going to be able to answer.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Cliffy, what's going on with Gears 6?
Yeah, I don't know if Gears if Cliff would know about Gears 6 or the Gears collection, would he?
I mean, your average person doesn't understand how intellectual property ownership works, and the fact that Microsoft bought that from Epic and then have the coalition. Okay, that's how. Get a fucking lawyer. Okay.
Yeah. This is an interesting question. Skedaddle. I'm aware of time, so we'll keep my question short and sweet. Cliff, So many games drew inspiration from Gears of War. Most notably, the first Uncharted game was delayed in order for certain core gameplay and technical elements to better resemble that of Gears. How did you feel at the time about many of these games? Are you able to tell us which ones you liked and which ones you didn't?
I mean, Uncharted is a great series. And my big thing is so many games wound up implementing cover systems after Gears came out. And it's like Gears was not the first game to do that. Winback did it way back in the day. Kill Switch, obviously. But I believe that, me getting into work every day and sitting there manually tuning fucking everything led to it being a great cover system. And then other games are just like, maybe you can take cover in this wall, maybe not. I don't fucking know, right? And so I'm exceptionally proud of that, honestly. And, I have a huge amount of respect for the people at Naughty Dog and like the products that they put out. And I mean, it's, to put that mechanic in. And that's the thing is I love mechanics that you see in other games that didn't really blow up, that if you could take as a game creator and actually make them like, a thing. It's like the same thing with like success in regards to this book that I read called Hitmakers that basically describes, if you can make something that feels familiar but new, then, you wind up with The Mandalorian, which is basically a fucking Western. Same thing with Firefly. Yeah. Same thing with Firefly, going back to it all. So,
yeah. So true.
Yeah, it's true. Jesse, brother. Salutations, gentlemen. Welcome, Cliffy, and thanks for all the great contributions to gaming you've made. There is one game I always had hoped would make its way to console, and it never worked out, and that would be Radical Heights. It was such a fun idea, and it was a blast watching streamers play it. If that's a sore subject, sorry to bring it up. What are your plans for the future?
Well, Radical Heights, I don't even know who the hell would own the rights to that. So, yeah, no idea. I mean, that was honestly the brainchild of a very talented animator named Zach Lowry that now actually found his home after Boss Key crumbled at Epic. So that's the thing is, like so many of the people that I hired and worked for me for 3.5 years all eventually landed on their feet because they were all really awesome, talented motherfuckers, but, Radical Heights, I think the biggest mistake with Radical Heights was it wasn't different enough in regards to other games, and that's the thing. It's like you want, like I just said a few minutes ago, you want to be familiar yet different, so you don't want to be seen as, people are like, same thing with Lawbreakers. They're like, you're chasing Overwatch. It's like, you think we farted out this game in 4 months to copy Overwatch? Like, that's not how it works. Turns out a bunch of FPS fans like games like League of Legends with abilities and heroes. Funny how that works,
Yeah.
So true. Good old Collingwood. It's amazing how you're giving these incredible answers that are still short and sharp, and we're like burning through these.
He's a seasoned professional at this, Nick.
Yeah, I know.
This is not my first rodeo.
Yeah, clearly not. Good old Collingwood. Happy March, John, Nick, and Jesse, and welcome, Cliffy B. Question for Cliffy. A few days ago, Shinji Mikami, head at Tenko Gameworks, indicated that he would step down from his position in a few months. It's not known what he will do after stepping down, but one of the most likely options is that he will retire. As you have gone through the same situation, what is in store for him and what advice would you give him? Now, he's also got a PS question, and I'm glad he's got this here because we forgot to ask Seamus this. We ask all our guests this.
That's true.
His PS question is, do you like Friends, the TV show?
Okay, first off, retirement gets fucking boring. So there's a reason why those of us who've had our father retire has a woodworking shop in the fucking garage. So,
yeah, my dad got into building trikes and archery for some reason.
I mean, idle hands are the devil's plaything, right? Like, you can only be out at the bar so much on a fucking Tuesday night.
That's a good movie too, Idle Hands.
Oh yeah, Jessica Alba, oh so beautiful.
Yeah.
Going back to the TV show Friends. Yeah, was that the question?
You like it?
Yeah.
He's like, do you like Friends?
I think we can all admit we like Jennifer Aniston's nipples.
They are prevalent throughout the whole show. That's true.
I'll never forget. Right, I'm in my mid-20s in my first marriage, watching this show, and Jennifer Aniston turned out to be this beautiful sex symbol, and the Rachel haircut and all that stuff. Right, she just looks so fucking tan too. But like every aspect though of the way things are filmed and lit, the costumes and everything like that, they know exactly what they're doing, and they knew they had this emerging sex symbol, and they're like, all right, let's keep the set really cold.
Whack down the AC, guys.
And Jennifer, don't wear a bra. Just like her acting was great in the show, and then but you're sitting there, you're like, shit, just doing. You know?
Ow.
So I like the show, but we also can agree Jennifer Aniston is lovely.
Yes. Yeah. It's a running joke for us because John and I discovered very late into us starting this podcast that we're both obsessed with Friends, as it turns out. We didn't know starting this. It just turned out.
So you guys gonna like dance at a fucking fountain scene or something?
Yeah. So it became this thing where every guest we had on, we'd ask them, "Do you like Friends?" Now most of them say no.
My brother and I actually get in a fight over this because I actually prefer Friends to Seinfeld.
Same. Yes, same.
Thank you.
That's it. You won for us, Cliffy.
Yes, Jerry Seinfeld. I've been studying stand-up comedy, and Jerry Seinfeld, like his whole shtick is, "What is the deal with this?" And you're like, "Yeah,
what is the deal?"
But that plays to the the Muggles. That plays to the cheap seats. Like you go to Taco Bell and there's not even a bell there. What's the deal with that? It's just like, okay, dude.
Yes, thank you. Did you see Jim Carrey's impression of Jerry Seinfeld on In Living Color back in the day?
No, but it's probably fucking awesome.
Oh my god, it's incredible. Go jump on YouTube whenever you can be bothered or get a chance, and just look up Jim Carrey doing Seinfeld on In Living Color. It was a skit show that the Wayans brothers did back in the days.
Fire Marshal Bob and whatnot, right?
Yes,
and
Fire Marshal the Clown.
What was it, Bill?
And a whole bunch of stuff.
Then there was the gay film reviewers, like 2 snaps up, right?
Yeah, I think yes. Just Jim Carrey does Seinfeld, and he really plays into that "what is the deal" thing. He does it brilliantly. It was when Jim was just starting out.
Oh, he's a fucking legend now. Okay, we actually got to wrap it up, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, come on.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's it.
Maybe just the pre-drag one.
The pre-drag one is the last question.
Yeah, you guys have been fucking great, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Pre-drag. Hello, gentlemen. Question for Cliffy. How did you react when Microsoft increased the RAM of the 360 from 256 to 512?
Shane Kim was the guy who was responsible at the time, and for all of that at Microsoft. And Tim Sweeney and Mark Rain basically said to him, like, you need to increase the memory. And I was at a video game conference, and Shane Kim goes up to Mark Rain, points the finger at him, and jokingly says, maybe it's a joke, you just cost my company $1 billion.
Wow.
But as they say, you got to spend money to make money.
Yeah, it worked out well. Especially for years. Wow. That's a good question to end on. I was hoping because I was always curious about that story.
Look, I apologize to Not Jack and One Bad Mother. I'm looking at Not Jack's question, and I reckon Cliffy kind of did.
We covered a lot of One Bad Mothers as well. Like we talked about all of those elements. So
yeah, we kind of did cover those during the show. So that works out all right.
We don't feel bad.
But yes.
But Cliffy,
so
thanks
for making the time, though, man. You were,
a wonderful guest.
It was, yeah, and real great of you. Like this was very last minute. We had nothing planned for this episode. I asked the Iron Lords how they got you on. I was like, I've been trying to get Cliff on for a while. How'd you get him on?
As the legendary hockey player Wayne Gretzky says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Very true. Very true.
All right, I gotta get going, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries.
Pleasure. Thank you, Cliff.
On, mate. Thanks heaps.
All right. Fair dinkum.
What a ledge. What a ledge. Oh, man. Good. Cliffy B on the show.
Yes.
Goodness.
So, sorry, Not Jack. Sorry, One Bad Mother. We we were going to do Name a Game first.
Yeah,
man. No. Everyone's, super chats and community questions. Let's get those done. But unfortunately, those last 2 questions. So Not Jack had said, welcome, Cliffy. In your opinion, what are some of the best and worst changes to AAA game design in the past decade?
We hit that
kind of delved into that. Like he talked about
did.
how he feels about AAA now and stuff like that. So Not Jack, hopefully he kind of answered your question in a roundabout way. And I think Abe said that
he talked about all sorts of things. Yeah. We definitely covered a lot of Abe's stuff. So wow, that was great. Good. It was a great get. I mean, he's a really cool guy. He's cool to have on.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed that chat. We didn't pay as much attention to you guys because
we did get
the legendary Cliffy B. We did do the super chats.
Yeah, I made sure to get those super chats in because they've spent money, man. Like you've got to get the super chats
and
in.
The Patreon.
And I know Jason will be wrapped because he is, like I said, the biggest Gears fan I know.
Yeah.
So he would have been absolutely wrapped. But no, Cliff. I'm so thankful he jumped on because as I said last week, we had nothing planned for 150. All the guests I'd reached out to, none of them.
Can you believe that? Like 150 episodes, dude.
It would have been more if we were going weekly from the start.
I know.
We would have already been at 200.
We would have had Phil on twice by now.
We may need to reach out to Phil in advance to start prepping for that, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, do you know, like, even if you were to say 150 episodes, if they were roughly average 3 hours a piece, it's 450 hours of audio podcasting. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that was great. That I was so happy that he agreed to be like. I mean, I had my nervous wait that I have with every big guest that they're just not going to show.
But he
he was nice and early.
Yeah, he showed.
He was super early, and he was replying to the emails. And he's my God, like for such a prestigious guest, he was. Yeah,
he was cool. I liked that he was very down to earth.
Great. Yeah, it was great.
and Jason just super chatted as well. Thank you, Nick. Super wrapped, big heart.
Yeah, super wrapped. Yeah, he was
good stuff.
Cliff was good. And again, like I said, it's sad that the game development has lost him. And that's something I forgot to ask him. I wanted to ask him, like, people forget he was also there for Fortnite. I wanted to ask him to get a definitive answer if Fortnite was like his idea, but Fortnite Save the World was him.
The front of his book says, God, I should just probably read it to get the exact.
Was it David? I think it was like a David, or I think his name was.
He writes, and consulting designer for Fortnite is what it says on the front of his book.
Consulting designer. Okay. And that's why I wanted to ask him, because I didn't want to just credit him and say, oh, Fortnite was you, when it wasn't. But I think people forget how much of an influence Cliffy has had across the industry over his career. And that's why I was saying it's sad that game development has lost him.
Well, maybe not forever. He might come back. He sounds like he still loves video games, right? So, but yeah, go check out his book. Link was in the chat. I'm sure we'll post it again. We'll probably have it in the YouTube description at the end of the show. 4 times.
Man, these timestamps are going to be an absolute.
They're going to be brutal. Good luck.
They're going to be such a write-off.
But randomly, been playing any games this week, Nick?
Have I been playing any games? I don't think I have. I just all I've been playing. Like, I started Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe after getting that. I think that's about it in terms of new stuff.
Nice.
Yeah,
well,
not.
You'll
not
be
a
pleased.
whole
You'll
heap.
be proud of me today, bro. You'll be proud because I had the LAN party last
Smash
weekend.
Brothers.
And man, like, obviously one of the guys brought his OLED Switch. We set it up on my 86-inch TV. He brought a GameCube adapter. A couple of guys had some wireless N64 pads, Bluetooth, like 8-bit things. And we were playing 6-player Smash. And mate, it's just in my head now.
Smash is good, man. Smash is a good game.
I went out. I grabbed my own Switch because my ex took it for the kids at her place. So it was right. Grabbed my own, recovered my account, grabbed Smash digitally, and good friend of mine had 3 GameCube controllers, and he just went, "There you go." And I was like, "Ah!" So I got the adapter, and I've been playing Smash all day. And you know what? The one thing I'll say, like, I've tried to get people that aren't into video games into games, and I'll like try them with something simple, something narrative led, something one button. But man, you just give them a GameCube controller and play Smash. And even my daughter, who's 5, and my son, they've been getting into it. And when you pull off a cool move, you're just like, it's awesome. I'm
Smash is real good.
It's great. Like, I'm really, really enjoying it. So yeah. Other than that, though, lots of Halo during the week. Finished another map for Halo Forge, which looks very pretty. Got my very sexy super limited edition Forge controller. I'm a bit bummed that it's not an Elite. Can you have it?
Can I have it?
If I'm going to give it away, I mean, this is a souvenir for my efforts on Halo. But if I'm going to give it to anyone, I'm going to give it away to the community, right? Our wonderful Xbox Era community that we've built from grassroots. Like that's the right thing to do.
Is there a box for it?
Oh yeah, man! It comes in its own
Okay.
custom Battle Beaver case.
Really?
And it's got my gamer tag on it. So
Wow.
yeah, but it doesn't have it
That's
on this.
cool.
Like this is just the pad, but it's very nifty.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a nice controller.
sad it's not an elite. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah,
I will
but-
never play with this because it's not an elite.
Yeah, I
case.
know.
Get
Yeah.
it into a beautiful display case and save it forever.
Yeah,
Mm.
maybe I should. I don't know. Like, I feel like it could be a really nice giveaway for someone. Like, that's a pretty cool one of 12 in the world, but whatevs.
Probably sell it on eBay for a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah. Am I jaded enough? We will find out. Other than that, though,
maybe that can pay for us three to go to E3 this year.
Well, look, okay, the dates have been announced, so we really need to have a look into that. I think we should try and make it happen.
Did you hear what Cliff said about the flight from the US to Australia? Yeah. Flip that around
hours.
for me going there. That's why I will pay for that business class upgrade.
Well,
because I ain't doing that shit economy.
No?
No
Don't fancy
way.
just
I'm
like
not,
back of the bus and shit?
I'm not doing like a 20-hour flight in economy. That's just not happening.
Oof.
No way.
I can do a 9-hour, 10-hour flight straight to LA.
Even for me, it's going to be like 6. It's not even going to be short.
I've done 7 to 9. Like when I went to Vanuatu for my honeymoon, that was like, I think either 7 hours or 9 hours, and I could handle that. But like anything over that 10 to 12 mark, no, sorry.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm sad about? I'm sad that I haven't had any Redfall invitations through my letterbox for us to fly out to LA and play. Like I've seen channels like half our size, half our social following. I'm like, who do you know? Who do you know at Arcane or
That's
Bethesda?
the issue is we don't have it. We haven't had an actual relationship with Bethesda PR. We go through 47 for them, not them themselves. So yeah.
It's a bit depressing. It's a bit depressing. Like I want to go play Redfall and be flown to LA, but whatever. I'm not gonna get too pissy about it.
So are we going to talk any news of the week, or should we have a shorter episode?
Well,
news of the week.
What's news of the week? Like Jesse, we've had a lot of stuff land on XboxEra.com this week. Give us the rundown.
Well, in the last week and a half, we've had Chef Life, a restaurant simulator, which does incredible because every simulator game seems to do ridiculous thanks to you weird-ass Euros.
I know.
Scars Above hit, which is actually really goddamn good, and I'm very confused at the reviews of it, which are middling to low. I'm like, no, that game's actually pretty goddamn fun. We had a preview for Road 96 Mile Zero, which will be coming out later in the year, done by Harmonica, and video done by Sick Mechanico, if you might have heard of them. Soul Blazers went to Halo Championship Series in Charlotte, got to play Season 3 early, and put up an impressions video that is very good.
Yeah,
and finally was my review of Wolong Fallen Dynasty, which is a fantastic game. Excellent. Absolutely loved it.
Man, that second stage of that first boss is like...
Yes. It is
like, hey, fuck you!
It is the tutorial for teaching you how important parrying is, because it's not a game you want to block. It's a game you want to dodge occasionally, but mostly parry, especially their big glowing red crimson blow attacks. The moment you get that down, he's pretty easy, and you will fly through every boss in that game except for Lubu, who is a fucking jerk. Because he changes up his speed, he does more damage, he has more health, but he's Lubu, so it kind of makes sense. And on Monday, we'll have a review for Dead Cells Return to Castlevania DLC. Very excited about that one.
Nice.
Wow. I started Dead Cells. Actually, I should have heard that. I started Dead Cells because of all the hype around the Castlevania one, and it was okay.
You need to get to the point where you've got the upgrades. It doesn't take long, but once you get the jumping and the climbing and all the various weapons, there's like 150 weapons in that game now.
Wow.
I've discovered a lot of weapons already, and I was only playing for like 10-15 minutes, and I found a bunch of weapons, blueprints, this, that, the other.
They've got crossovers with like 20 games, like Half-Life and Hollow Knight and all these different things. Yeah, that's one of the best games of last gen for me. They just keep making it better.
I've just seen in the chat that Chaos Ante is offering to buy us all the first round. See you guys at E3. I mean, man, if K's going, we've got to go. Like we've got to make it happen.
Try. Like, my wife's been asking. She's like, "Are you going to go?"
I mean, this is the thing. We've managed to meet remotely, even each other remotely, and we've been working together for 3 years. The idea that we could even meet just a fraction of the team in real life in one place, as well as all of the incredible community around us at E3, would be fucking fantastic. Like, I would absolutely love it.
I just need to expense a laptop so I could run a podcast from there.
Yeah, hire one and take it overseas.
I'll bring the MacBook. I'll bring the MacBook.
Okay. I have no idea how to use a Mac.
Yeah, we'll be just like struggling.
What do you mean? It doesn't, like, Streamlabs is Streamlabs. Whether you're using it on a Mac or a Windows.
Yeah. Huh? We're going to find a way. Yeah, I don't care. I'll put my.
Make it work. You can load up.
Sorry,
we could get cheap little lapel mics. You know.
Yeah.
Rode. Really nerdy. I was going to get some of those Rode ones, even for the show, just so I can like sit wherever.
Yeah, because you guys and I joked with John about this earlier. You guys move around. Your microphone only picks you up really well when you're in one spot. It does not pick you up very well from any other spot, which is it's really good thing. But you have to remember to be in that one spot because I know
I have a tendency to turn my mouth like that.
Yeah, I'm constantly moving your slider, so you'll be can't hear you, can finally hear you. You move and then you blow eardrums out.
I know, I'm a plonker. I'll try and keep still. I'm sorry,
so, I mean,
please don't hit me again.
In the news, most of the news was ABK stuff. Unfortunately,
it was that Microsoft won their subpoena for the most part.
There was a couple of smaller things. So it turns out the director for Beyond Good and Evil 2 left. So that's not a great sign for a project that already wasn't looking the greatest. We had a friend of ours, Andy Robinson, who caused just a wee bit of controversy. Just a wee bit.
The old VGC controversy. The old Xbox is going to be for sale if the ABK acquisition fails. The old fear.
Andy wasn't saying that he believes it. And Andy wasn't saying he was told it's going to happen, which I think is how people treated it. Like, I only noticed because, you know, I've been victim to that, where I'll say one thing and people conflate it into something else. All he was, I believe, saying was, now he called them industry pundits. Now, I don't know if that was cover for something else.
What's a fucking industry pundit when it's at home, huh?
I didn't ask him. But my guess is that maybe he knows people within Microsoft. Maybe this is just an assumption of mine. This is just speculation. Maybe there are people within Microsoft he knows that have heard something, whatever, that, hey, if ABK doesn't go through, maybe that's a big enough blow where they think, you know what, we took our best shot. Let's just cut our losses. I personally don't think that would happen. But even Jez said, you know, Microsoft has just woken up one day and decided we ain't doing this anymore. But yeah, the tea leaves would suggest
Windows Phone wasn't a pillar. Xbox has become a pillar. It's
become, yeah, that's right, and that's why it's not quite the same.
Also,
thing.
They're only
front-facing
brand.
Yes,
they're only one.
Which I've been saying for years on this show. Like, Xbox is their one young, hip, consumer-friendly, front-facing product. Like, it'd be silly of them to get rid of it, even if it wasn't doing the best financially. Just to have it there as that face that Microsoft needs, because their face has always been Office, Excel documents, boring, corporate. Xbox is the only thing that's given them even a remotely trendy, hip image. How trendy and hip you think that is up for debate. But that's their only thing. It'd be crazy for them to get rid of it.
I don't see it happening, man. It's just not. It's not a thing. And
no, but it also leads us to ABK, which is looking more and more likely to go through by the day.
Shock.
So Sony's had their Sony was successful in blocking the subpoena for employee reviews.
Yeah, and
which
for
is fair enough.
And for the time constraint, like originally Microsoft asked for 2012. or something.
Yes, it's going back
onwards.
to 2019.
Correct. Yeah.
And what they basically have to show is all the third-party deals they made, which is
There's going to be some sauce in there.
Some juicy stuff coming out of those documents. And again, it's not like people know that Sony money hat a lot. I'm more like having seen the Resident Evil 8 contract myself, having had like I've got a copy of the Resident Evil 8 contract. It's not so much that what's been money hatted, what hasn't. There's more. It's not with Sony. Like I've got to word this carefully. Like there's stuff that Sony does that's kind of known, but no one wants to talk about it. I don't know if it's out of fear. I don't know if it's out of, because Sony's so big that you'll be shouted down, you'll be whatever. There's stuff I'm fairly confident will come out of these subpoenas that I'm really, really glad will finally come out of these subpoenas.
There's a lot of interesting stuff that's going to come to light, man. Like
it's not just about the money hats. There's more. There's other stuff that it will help Microsoft's case too.
I think it will.
Like
for sure.
There's other stuff. Like there's stuff the CMA have been, CMA more stupid stuff. CMA continue to just protect Sony at all costs. Still, like the EU has kind of stopped that now.
Yeah,
the EU seem now like they're like, okay, I think we're okay with this. Like the EU they're not. I don't think they're going to ask for any divestiture.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
The EU, it seems like they'll be mostly happy with some behavioral remedies.
Yeah, 10-year contracts,
Microsoft,
all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, which Microsoft have kind of been providing
this was
anyway.
First reported by Reuters, right? But I think the biggest interesting thing that kind of came out of all of this was, I think, and keep me honest here, because it's been a busy week and I kind of only really resurfaced on like Wednesday. I had a crazy week. COD itself funds Sony's first party, so the first party to produce their, Last of Us, Horizon.
What have I been saying on this show for the better part of 2 years?
They cost so much that Call of Duty.
Those games, I keep telling people, those Sony first party games don't make the money you think they do. Like those games cost so much money to make. That is why you've seen Sony start to pivot towards, hold on, we need to buy some studios for games as a service and remasters and this, because they can't just keep. Sony wasn't going to be able to go too much longer putting out 1 or 2 games a year that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make and market. They weren't going to be able to keep going that way. Cliffy was just talking about, hey, do you think AAA is sustainable the way it's going? No, it's not.
Sony's version of it.
No, not Sony's version. The reason you get that quality that you get out of Sony's first party is because of just how much money they pump in and the resources they put into it to get those games the way they are. Like it's not long-term sustainable.
No,
it's just, and that's what I mean. Everyone's like, oh, look, they've sold 10 million copies, 15 million copies. That's probably not even enough with those games. That's why you see Square, the idiots. Oh, this game only sold however many million. Oh my God, they're just the dumbest publisher going around, Square, seriously. And they're changing their president. I think this new president's even more into NFTs.
Oh, great.
Like, this is why you keep seeing Square saying everything's underperforming. Like, despite how many millions you see a game sell, like these games are expensive to make, man, like super expensive. And then it's not just the development cost, it's the marketing cost as well. It's, why do you think they jump at these Game Pass deals? Like, here's free cash to be on this subscription service. Oh, thank you. Please.
Well, only if Sony hasn't blocked them from.
Only if Sony hasn't blocked Game Pass, which we know
it's going to be fun to read about.
And so much of that's going to come out of all this.
Like, do you remember how much drama we got out of the Epic versus Apple case? Like through these contracts reveals, like the whole cross-play charges and all sorts
Did
of stuff.
everyone just think it was a coincidence that Sony was like, can we just delay this a bit longer? Can we just delay? And then you hear in the background all the shredding machines just going.
Burn it all, wipe the computers.
We don't know where all those contracts are. Like, why do you think Sony kept delaying that subpoena? Like,
didn't they actually say in the official response, they're in Japanese, you probably wouldn't be able to read them? And it's like, what?
It's just like, I don't care what anyone says. I reckon they'd be cutting their pants at what's going to come out of those documents, man. Like, because it helps Microsoft. Whatever's in there is going to help Microsoft, especially against the CMA.
You say
who's been all about protecting Sony. But when they see that Sony, as the market leader, has been partaking in foreclosure strategies, it kind of spits in the face of what the CMA is saying about Microsoft, doesn't it?
It does a bit, but the thing is, it would require the games media to really take them to task about it as well. And
that's
ever since Tomb Raider versus every other game that's been money hatted that was third party, but now no longer is, there's just not the energy. Like, my God, we've spoken about this before. The damn near harassment that the dev teams got, Phil got, the Xbox team got over. We've paid for this to be exclusive. Yeah, but how long until I get my PlayStation version? There's just not that energy when it comes to the other way around, and there never will be. Never will.
No, that's right. There never will be. There won't be. Like, what big outlet have you seen put any kind of pressure on Square or Sony for any of that stuff? Oh, well, how long is Final Fantasy VII Remake exclusive for, guys? How long? How long is this exclusive for? Nothing.
Yeah. It doesn't happen, man.
And I mean,
it doesn't happen.
That's the thing. It's just, it's not about caring so much. I personally don't give a rat's about Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't play Final Fantasy games. It's just part of, I don't know, part of journalism, part of being part of that is covering everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just weird that, it's like, put it this way. I see a lot of PlayStation fans, and, there's varying degrees of Xbox fans, PlayStation fans. You've got your psycho fanatic, toxic fanboys. You've just got your fans that are just, they prefer PlayStation, but, they're open to whatever. I see a lot of people. Have you noticed how Starfield has come back into the conversation again?
Oh, well, they're not talking about it yet. So let's start panicking.
Not just that, about the exclusivity and all that. So I've seen a lot of people, like, calling out Phil about the exclusivity talk. And I kind of understand where that's coming from. And I've seen Xbox. This is all just my observations of what Twitter spits at my face. And I see a lot of Xbox fans clapping back, going, oh, well, now you want Starfield. And I'm like, that's not how I'm interpreting it. I don't think I'm interpreting it as these PlayStation fans want Starfield. I'm sure they did at one point, and they've now come to accept the fact that Starfield's not coming to PlayStation. It's more when Phil says stuff like, we want to bring games to more players, right? And then we do have Starfield being exclusive to Xbox. Now, there's a couple of ways you can spin that. You can turn around and say, well, yeah, he's bringing it to more players because Starfield's going to be on cloud and it's going to be on PC and it's going to be on this. So that's a lot more people that can access it.
To access is a lot cheaper.
That's one way to look at it. But from a console gamer perspective, it's like, well, no, you're not. You're bringing it to less players because only Xbox players are going to play it. Like, it's what I've always said. Be a prick. Just own the fact that, yeah, man, we're buying this shit to make it exclusive. Otherwise, why the hell else are we buying it?
The executive spin for it? Because if they are if they're ever going to bring cloud to Switch, then they have brought Starfield to more people in that
I know.
And
that's what I would say. That's what I would say to those more reasonable PlayStation fans that are more calling Phil out on the tricky wording. In the end, it comes back to what we just said about games media. If Phil and Microsoft were to just come out and be frank and say, well, no, we're buying this stuff because we want to own it, because we have a first-party exclusive problem and we want to beef it up, and we have Game Pass and we need to feed Game Pass and blah, 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 blah. it's great. That honesty would be very refreshing, but at the same time, let's be real. If we're going to be honest, the games media would still drill them for it.
Yeah.
Did you get
even
to watch
for that
the,
honesty?
Did you get to watch the interview with Charlie that they did on the Xbox
Yes.
On channel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
He hit it up where it's like, well, we never said we were going
Yeah,
to.
he was
they
quite
said the
like,
case by case basis. We never said that things were going to be multi-platform. We said we wouldn't ever pull anything off. Like anything that's already there, it'll stay there. Anything that's already announced, it'll go out. But Starfield, much like Hi-Fi Rush, was never announced for any platforms, and it was only being developed on PC. That's the way it always goes with those. They don't hit up consoles until things are closer.
Yeah.
But it comes back to what we've been saying, right? So I'm sure Phil would love to be 100% upfront about this stuff and far more crystal clear. But this is the yin and the yang of being so open to media and being so open to community. How many interviews do you see Jim Ryan do for him to be able to get grilled about stuff? He does none.
Really bad.
Where Phil's out there with everyone. Phil's in our Discord. Like Phil's on our forum. Phil, like where else are you going to get that?
Phil is playing his Xbox when he's finished being grilled by the European
Commission. That's what I'm saying.
Commission.
So
he's actually
a balancing act.
Yeah, I mean, Cliffy said it right. Cliffy said it best.
Yeah,
he manages that balance really well.
So the alternative is if you think Phil talks crap and you don't want to hear him talk crap, well, the counterbalance to that is that he's no longer open at all. No more, barely any interviews, barely any community interaction.
Screw that.
None of it. I mean, I follow Shu on Twitter, great guy. But a lot of his Twitter feed is, hey, look at the restaurant I'm eating at and blah, 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 blah. Because he probably doesn't want to deal with any of the garbage. Do you know what I mean? Like he just keeps it very on the straight and narrow because he probably gets how people are on Twitter. And that's the balance. Like I understand those people that are trying to call Phil out, but that's why I've always said they try to choose their words as carefully as possible.
Yeah.
And they have always said, we won't pull anything from PlayStation. And they haven't. They haven't pulled it.
No.
Like, nothing's been pulled per se. Yes, there probably was a PS5 version of Starfield in development, but it wasn't announced. It wasn't shown. It wasn't anything. So technically nothing's been pulled per se. There was a version of Gears 3 for the PS3. Was that pulled? Or is it just something that was there and it never saw the light of day? Like, then we're arguing semantics about what's pulling, what's not pulling. If a version was announced, like look at that indie game, the devil in
Little Devil Inside.
Yeah,
that was a Kickstarter. They had a Wii U version, Xbox One, PS4, blah blah blah. Now it's just PlayStation. That's pulled. So if something that was announced with platforms, and now only one of those platforms exists. To me, that's pulling from or removing from.
Man, what did they say to the Kickstarter people? Like,
idea.
We know you wanted it for the Xbox, but tough shit.
I have no idea what the details are on that. I just know that it was a Kickstarter that had Wii U with it, Xbox One with it, everything with it. To me, that's a better example of pulling. Now, we're all smart enough to be aware that there was a PS5 version of Starfield
planned
partway through development, in development, whatever.
You know, Nick, you go to their website, it just shows PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Switch. It still shows that. PlayStation has the marketing, but Little Devil Inside still claims it's coming to everything. That's always been the weird thing.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, they only ever showed on PS5. It definitely feels like vaporware because it's been so long, but they still claim coming to everything.
Well, then Wii U's the only platform that lost it then.
Yeah, they went to Switch instead.
Worth saying, we've got a $1.99 chat from 99 Ruken just on the ABK stuff asking, is it possible for Microsoft just to sell all ABK UK assets? They still need to do business in the UK, man.
It would have to be all of their biggest markets. Smarter people have told me it would have to be all of Microsoft not working in the UK anymore.
Yeah, it's just never
they're not going to do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm seeing some people in the chat, Solar Blade, whatever it is, Project Eve. That was announced with an Xbox version. And then Sony came in and not necessarily money had it. That was more they were struggling with the cost of development, and Sony said, well, hold, like a Titanfall. But see, Project Eve was more Titanfall than Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think.
Do you know what I like to imagine? Right, you go back in time. The PS5 doesn't exist yet. The series consoles haven't been announced yet. Sony approaches Bethesda and says, what are you developing? Okay, yeah, we'll pay you some money for Ghostwire Tokyo. Yeah, we'll pay you some money for Deathloop. No worries. Starfield, we'd love to. I don't know about that. There's a little back and forth. I can just imagine getting off the phone, Todd's like, Phil, look, man, like we're struggling for cash. We've said yes to 2 of these deals, and I don't really want to say yes to the third one. You guys are pretty rich. And then Phil's just like, okay, they're buying games. Let's just buy the whole studio. Like, I can imagine that happening. And that's the irony of it, right? Those 2 games were going to be coming out, but Bethesda was in a situation where their games were flopping. They tried live service. It hadn't landed. Their games were being critically acclaimed from Arcane, but they weren't commercially successful. What do? We start accepting exclusivity deals from Sony because they pay the cash. And it's just luck, I think, for Microsoft that they turned around and went, hey, we'll just buy the whole thing. And it still makes me laugh that people get so uptight about Starfield being ripped away. I'm like, motherfucker, Sony literally paid for 2 games to not come to this console for a year. Like, they could have, but Bethesda needed the cash because there's a business to be paid for here. And Microsoft just bought the whole thing. And it makes me laugh.
I understand people's desire for more clarity, but also understand that you've seen it. This isn't what do they call it? What's that thing? This isn't whinging. This isn't confirmation bias. You see it for yourself. Sony doesn't get grilled by the media the same way Microsoft does. That's why you're always going to see Phil just be a bit smarter with his words, be a little less or a little more non-committal, because they can't get away with the stuff Sony does. Like, you can call it whatever you want, but it's a fact. Like, poor Ryan McCaffrey is going to be memed to death because of his 2 tweets that highlight this exact issue. And this isn't me having a go at Ryan. The meme is out there. It's not me saying it. The meme is out there. Ryan put out a tweet. Oh, God, Tomb Raider is exclusive to Xbox. This helps no one. Like, why is it exclusive? It just helps console fanboy arguments. But then when Sony locks up Final Fantasy, this is just a genius, smart business move. That's the example of what I'm talking about. Microsoft gets grilled. It's the Luke Plunkett syndrome. Xbox One is the dirty piracy machine. The PlayStation 4 has MKV support. That's why you are always and forever going to see Microsoft be slightly less upfront about what's happening with this stuff, because they're going to get grilled in a way that Sony's not.
They should be pricks.
I think they should be pricks. Be upfront. Say, no, we bought Bethesda because you tell us our games fucking suck and we have no games. So we bought Bethesda. Now we've got games.
And I took that personally.
And you say we've got no games and our games suck. So we bought ABK. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if either of you listened to the VGC podcast this week, but it was Andy Robinson, Jordan Midler, and Jeff Gerstmann, and things like Sony does organic growth, and Xbox hasn't had any games for multiple years, and it was enlightening on just how really well-respected industry veterans still look at Xbox like it's 2017.
That's what I mean. And that's really what Microsoft is dealing with that Sony isn't. And that's why they're going to keep being that way. So if you're hoping for more clarity, if you're hoping for more forthrightness, you're probably not going to get it for that exact reason. Where if you saw the media like absolutely drill Sony for this sort of stuff, and they drill Microsoft, then you're either going to have both companies be up front or they're both going to withdraw. But it'll be the same. But when you've got one company that gets drilled and another that doesn't, like, if I'm being completely frank, the only place you see Sony get drilled in any kind of fashion is on podcasts like this one. if I'm being frank, that's the only place you see, and we're not media like IGN is or GameSpot or any of the big guys, because
We do a
I don't
pretty
know.
fucking good job, though. Just saying.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, we're not any of the big guys. We're not scared to lose our review codes for PlayStation games. So we're not scared, and we're not worried to protect that kind of stuff. So we'll just call it as we see it. Like, and regardless of who, like, I told my story about how I thought Ragnarok could have started as DLC. Now, you all know how much I love Nintendo, and the first thing I said about Tears of the Kingdom was, that kind of looks like Breath of the Wild DLC. I'll just call it as I see it, regardless. But that's the only place you're going to see Sony get called out on those smaller podcasts and news outlets without a real voice that doesn't have that same volume. That's rightly, wrongly, whatever. That's the only place you're going to see it. I don't think I've ever seen it personally. If someone can point it out, great, please point it out. But I don't think I've ever seen IGN.
I think during the Epic versus Apple stuff, there were some genuinely good articles from Grub, and some other outlets calling out Sony for some of the things. But the thing is, people just stop talking about it after a while.
Yeah, they do. They stop.
The defense force comes in, whereas. Man,
yet we keep seeing the same Xbox arguments get regurgitated for years on end, podcast after podcast, article after article. It's just never ending.
Yeah.
You have reviews. It's gone so far now. It's hit that point where we now have reviews that are like, this game is awesome, but because Microsoft hasn't made decent games lately, I can't score this game highly.
Yeah, I know what review you're talking about. And even even Metro Central, like if you look at their advocate, reader of the week articles that are submitted, they're all absolutely bonkers, but they talk in line with this very anti-Microsoft. They should sell their business to Sony. Like I read one of those. They should sell their business. I'm like, what the fuck am I reading? And it's always the same. It's never a reasonable take. It's never a sensible, thoughtful, I understand this industry and I understand the reality of how the sausage is made and how games work. It's just the most asinine rhetoric that I hate it.
Like I'm okay with calling out stuff that's justified in calling out. I've seen some people, there are a lot of people who are enjoying PSVR 2 now that have called out, Phil, where's VR on Xbox? Because remember when the One X was announced, remember how they talked about high fidelity VR? Like they alluded to the fact that they were going to get into VR and then nothing. Stuff like that, call it out. No worries. I have no issue with that. I'm fine with that sort of stuff. But I don't know. I think there needs to be some give and take in terms of understanding why Microsoft are in the media the way they are, because even those that like to call Microsoft out, you have to admit they're not treated quite the same way as Sony is in the media. They're just not. Whether you want to admit it or not is totally on you, but they're just not treated the same way.
Yeah,
because they're big bad Microsoft. And they're the $1 trillion company, and Xbox is the newcomer, and I hate the newcomer.
I see a lot of people taking umbrage with the fact that people use the phrase underdog. Microsoft's not an underdog; they're a $1 trillion company. And I'm like, in the console gaming space, they're not expected to ever win.
That's right.
That's the definition of an underdog: a person in a competition that is not expected to win.
They are the third place company. They're always last. Like they're always like that. That is what an underdog is. When someone is not expected to win, that's an underdog. That's what that is.
Yeah.
No one is saying that Microsoft is a poor little company that's struggling. But they just
laugh so much.
Again, that's being like disingenuous with words there.
Just a smidge.
But yeah, I feel, I don't know. I mean, God, we went off on so many tangents then. Like that started with us talking about how Call of Duty is what funds PlayStation first party. There was also I think CMA, they redacted it, but I think the CMA was like, oh, we've seen the console sales numbers. And that gap's not quite what everyone estimated. It's like, really? Isn't that something I've been saying for the better part of a year?
Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see if that actual little nugget of detail comes out, you know.
There's no way known Microsoft lets that get out. There's no way known that's going to be redacted for life. And then you had those industry analysts that estimated that Microsoft was at 18.5 million consoles. I'm like, buy a new calculator, dude. Like, Microsoft's not at 18.5 million consoles. Like, even the guys at Install Base who, like, that's all they do all day. These guys, and sorry, that's a very reductive way of saying it, but those guys are at Install Base were the ones that splintered off from Reset because they hated sales talk on Reset. And hello, all talk on Reset is shit. But they started their own forum where they full on just go over data. Even those guys have Xbox Series consoles at least in the 21 to 23 range.
Yeah.
And they like full on analyze this stuff. And they've got them in the 21 to 23. Where these guys plucked the 18.5 from, I'll never know. And I'm not even going to waste my time looking into it because it's just stupid.
But, there was one thing that just came through. ITIS on Resetera was going through some more stuff and said that it looks like they've gotten provisional approval from the EU.
Wow.
Yes, the EU has come around. Like, I thought EU was protecting Sony to begin with as well, but they have sort of started to come around where CMA is just still full bore in, you know, what they're doing, making sure Sony's protected at all costs. But the EU, it looks like they're going to approve it. It looks like. FTC, I mean, the FTC, didn't someone resign? Someone just
there's been a couple of...
The last Republican quit because of Lina Khan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty rough.
Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot, though, in organizations. Someone new comes in, wants to put their stamp on the place, and the people that have been there a long time don't like it.
Yeah.
So they go. Happens, I mean, you'd know. It happens everywhere in big
It does.
corps.
We got a super chat from Gary Barwick.
Yeah, Gary Barwick. ABK deal looks like it's going through. Apple has a lot of cash on hand. I still expect with an ABK all okay. Apple will try a Sony takeover and the PS6 moved over to an M1 or an M2
Can you imagine?
Chip. Well, look, that's another hill I'm dying on. I still reckon that there's a timeline where Apple, it's a perfection fit. Perfection fit. From every aspect you can think of, it is literally a perfect fit, Apple and Sony. Even down to the fans. They're like the same type of fans. And I say that as someone who is knee-deep in the Apple ecosystem. Even the fans align perfectly. Apple and Sony is like... I still say it's a match made in heaven. Like, they align on so many parts of the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I had to mute that massive cough that I had built up. The funny thing is, I actually wouldn't mind it if Apple bought Sony and took over everything. Like, we'd never get an ugly PlayStation again.
Yeah, they'll be very small.
They'd have the war chest to
They'd
be able
$1,000 at launch.
Yeah, PlayStations would get a bit more expensive. Like, imagine how cool it would be if your PlayStation and your Apple products just interweaved and could talk to each other. And I reckon that's what. See, I love that ecosystem stuff. That's what I love. Like, I love the ecosystem.
Xbox and PC and cloud versus Apple, Mac.
That'd be awesome. That'd be so cool. Like, I love good ecosystems. I love good ecosystems. And if Apple bought Sony, an Apple PlayStation ecosystem would just be incredible, I reckon. And if PlayStation has all that money behind them to fund first-party development, maybe they don't need to money hat the shit out of everything anymore. Because, yeah, their games are expensive to make, but they've got Apple backing them now. So they don't have to worry about it. They can just go all out. And all of a sudden, you've got tie-ins with the Apple TV Plus shows. And all of a sudden, those PlayStation shows can be on Apple TV Plus. And I reckon it'd be a great ecosystem if Apple bought Sony. I reckon it'd be awesome. Be great. Whether it happens or not is another ballgame, but I reckon it'd be cool. But yeah, I mean, how much do you want to say about ABK? Like,
I mean, there's not much more to say, right? Right now, that the short and skinny of it is, it looks like EU is going to say yes with some behavioral remedies. The 10-year deal for Nvidia, the 10-year deal for Nintendo look to be enough to convince regulators. Yeah, okay. Microsoft have also offered to pay for a third-party company
to make sure they keep their word,
make them adhere to it, so that the commissions and the CMAs of the world don't have to devote any resources on checks and balances. What more can you say? It is not a horizontal merger; it's a vertical merger. By law, it adheres to all of the boxes and Microsoft know this, which is why the FTC will have a real hard time in court. But the
FTC will 100% lose.
Yeah, but the only wrinkle for them is, and this is important, right? The CMA, the process for appeal, there isn't really one that means someone else reviews the same evidence. You have to show that it's an unreasonable, I think, unreasonable viewpoint after all the evidence and facts are laid bare, or that someone has been grossly negligent or something like that. But even then, only the specific part that you have issue with is just resent back to the CMA to review again, right? This is the big one. But typically, lots of these big regulators work in lockstep with each other, right? This is why the FTC tried to do that whole lawsuit to kind of strong arm the European Commission and the CMA. They may not have liked that very much. But
did you see the quotes from the European Commission?
Yeah, when they were like, we never said Microsoft lied about Bethesda or something like that. It was about Bethesda.
There was even a new one where she was like, well, we're not going to listen to people complaining, other companies complaining, like certain other jurisdictions might be. Sort of throwing shade at the CMA and FTC.
So they're the last wrinkle, but the CMA's findings said that they were not taking into account any of the 10-year deals, yada yada yada, that were on the table. Those were the provisional findings with no other considerations in play. I'm fairly hopeful now. Like, there was a point where I was like, this is looking real dicey. People want to make this big impact on big tech, but it's not a horizontal merger. It's a vertical merger. Should be okay. Let's see. 26th of April, folks. That's when we're waiting for now. It's not long. It's next month. We can say that now. Next month, the nightmare is over.
Why is it over?
Because that's when all the final results come back. Do or die. Like if it's all
okay.
Go, Microsoft could go complete the deal even without the FTC's approval, right? Because it's not approval. Right. It's suing or not suing. We can finally breathe easy. And just to finish on this note, did you notice the Diablo 4 stuff had a special customized Xbox logo in the trailer?
I've long suspected that it's starting to look like there's a chance Diablo 4, like, I reckon it's almost like they're just waiting for the button. They're like, mate,
it's coming
waiting to the last second to push this button. Like, as soon as this deal goes through, bang, Diablo on Game Pass.
They have had marketing the entire time, so I imagine it's more tied to having marketing.
Oh no, I know, but what I'm saying is, I'm saying it just feels like, I don't know. Yeah. I've got this funny feeling that
they got that. They got Overwatch. They got
Yeah, I've got a feeling they're waiting with that button for the deal to go through, and then they go, as soon as the deal goes, as long as it's before release date, bang, push the button. It's on Game Pass now. And away they go. It's just how it feels. Like, either way, I suspect we're getting Diablo 4 on Game Pass sooner rather than later. Even if it's not at launch.
If anyone from Blizzard is watching this podcast, I've been desperately trying to get in hold of you guys. I only have one PR email address and they've never responded. So we would love to cover Blizzard games. If anyone from Blizzard is ever watching, we'd love to play your betas and do reviews for your stuff. So hit us up.
Yeah.
I'll say
I
I'm
don't know where else
I
to
think
go.
I'm being followed by someone from Blizzard. I think.
Oh, I thought you were going to say someone's like outside your window.
No. I think I'm being followed on Twitter by someone from Blizzard. I think, but I'll have to check.
Message them and say, hey, know anyone in your PR department?
Yeah.
Well, it's worth mentioning as well, just to wrap up the ABK talk, because we've still got Name a Game. Thankfully, we haven't had community questions, so it's Name a Game and we're done.
There's a couple of community questions.
There's only a couple of questions.
There's a couple.
Faisal is in with the super chat saying it'll be interesting to see how many games are money hats versus third parties focusing resources on the larger player base in the PS4 era. That would be interesting, but we're only going back to 2019, so we won't see too much of that.
But I mean, Cliff, you spoke about that look, isn't it funny? Like, I remember people telling me I was a conspiracy theorist with Lawbreakers. Like, I remember back then saying, I bet you they just went Lawbreakers because all they saw was bigger PS4 base and said, well, that's where we'll make it exclusive because bigger PS4 base. And I remember saying what a mistake that was because, dude, you're synonymous with Xbox. If any console should have had Lawbreakers as an exclusive, it should have been Xbox because you're an Xbox guy whether you like it or not. And the Xbox install base was more likely to be receptive to your game than the PlayStation install base, whether you like it or not. Titanfall 2 on Xbox outsold Titanfall 2 on PlayStation 4, despite that install base. Like, install base is too simplistic a way to look at it. It's the same thing with all the Japanese games that skip Xbox. I doubt most of those are money hats. Most of them are probably what Faisal has said. The majority are probably like, Xbox players don't buy Japanese games. Don't worry about it. The install
if we
base
don't do it, maybe we'll get a
anyway.
Game Pass deal.
Yeah, well, that's what's happening. That's what I think's happening now. Remember, we've said that. We're like, Microsoft's putting themselves in a bit of a bind now because all these Japanese publishers and developers are seeing Microsoft go out of their way for these Game Pass deals, and I think there's a few more coming. And they're like, well, hold on. How about we just don't release an Xbox version and we wait for that Game Pass bag of money to come our way? That's the situation they probably find themselves in now with the Japanese games.
Before we hit Name a Game, how much would it be to send a neck brace to both you and John that gets you to stay in front of your mic?
Love you.
I don't know. I'll have to. Maybe we should
get nice
get
mics, but they're super positional. You've got to be right on them. Or
maybe we should get those Rode clip mics that just clip under there, and that way we can just go wherever the hell, shake our hands and go everywhere. It won't matter.
The truth is, before we go Name a Game, everybody in the chat should pause for a moment, look down at their phone or look at their computer screen, move their cursor or their thumb to the little thumbs up icon on YouTube and just hit the like button because it helps us and powers the algorithm and does all the good things, and it would make us feel very great about everything.
Yeah, we're up to 17,000 subscribers now.
I know. Lots of giveaways.
We did a lot of giveaways.
A lot of giveaways going on. But hopefully, we'll find some more people that enjoy what we do. Before we get into Name a Game, though, did you have your breakfast today? I saw you sipping on it before we started.
I was drinking it. Well, I didn't want to do the ad.
I know.
While Cliff was, so I'm like,
you could do the rumor mill now. I mean, he's not here.
I mean, it's true. You could do.
No, I'll do it next week. All
right, rumor mill next week.
Because I want to just confirm that I can even. Because I've assumed I can rumor mill what I was told last night, but I don't. I want to be.
Do you want a little rumor mill from me?
Okay.
Starfield is in June. Okay. Anyway, let's.
I reckon. I'm sticking to June. I've said June all along. I still reckon it'll be June.
It's in June.
I still think it'll be June. Sticking to my guns, and I'll make sure that Rand never forgets that he said March. Same way he'll never let me forget that we thought September, October was going to be ABK closing.
I think we've got a newbie in the chat. They've asked, "Is rumor mill a rumor?" And we're like, "Well, yeah, the rumor mill is
it's called the rumor mill."
It's our thing.
I think he's joking. Is the rumor mill this week that there's a rumor of a rumor mill next week?
Okay, that makes more sense.
Mill, a rumor, lol. Yeah.
But no, anyone thinking of a shadow drop for Starfield is bonkers. But no, like I think June.
Also, anyone thinking that if they haven't talked about it, that it's being canceled or not being canceled, being delayed is also bonkers. It's like you don't need 9 months of marketing.
Where did talk of the Starfield show come from? How did that start?
I think a bullshit Twitter account, but I do remember Andy Robinson jumped on that and said, I hear rumors of a Starfield show, but maybe he was just referring to the Twitter. That's the thing. You say something, if you've got a voice in this industry and you say it on Twitter.
He said it was imminent.
Guess what?
News soon. Or it was like imminent, I believe.
Yeah.
Like, not to sound arrogant, but usually with these shows, even if I don't say something, I'll usually hear something, whether it's from another journalist, whether it's from maybe one or two or three of my sources. Huh?
You said from another journalist, intimating that you yourself are a journalist.
No, as in a journalist, like a Jeff Grubb or a Tom.
I'm teasing you.
I don't mean another as in I'm one. I'm not one. I'm the one that told Jordan Midler. Jordan Midler referred to me as a journalist in one of his earlier articles, and I sent him a DM. I'm like, dude, can you take that word out? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, can you remove the word journalist? I'm like, that's an insult to real journalists. Like, I'm not a journalist, dude.
Very fair.
Like, I usually hear stuff. Even if I don't say something, I usually hear stuff. Yeah. And I had heard nothing about a Starfield show, a potential Starfield show being announced or whatever this week. So I've just found it odd. Like, you know, I hear scuttlebutt about the PlayStation shows or the Nintendo Directs or the Xbox Developer Direct. Like, I had heard about all of those. I'm also potentially hearing some scuttlebutt about a PlayStation showcase. Not going to say what, not going to say when, because I don't want that shit biting back at me. I will at some point ask if I can talk about a game that will be at the PlayStation showcase. There's a third-party game, a big one, that we all know exists. So it's not a reveal per se. We all know this third-party game exists. It's a very, very, very big game.
Grand Theft Auto.
That will probably be announced / officially revealed at the PlayStation showcase. But again, I'm waiting for more concrete information on that before I open my big trap.
Anorexic just leaked that GTA 7 is in development in the chat.
Oh my god!
And then he goes 6. I mean, but yes, this game is what I would consider a fairly big third-party game that everyone knows exists. So this isn't a secret reveal or anything. This is a game that everyone knows is in development, but it hasn't actually been quote unquote officially,
because it kind of got this really massive leak recently. And
no, you're all still guessing Grand Theft Auto. Why are you all guessing Grand Theft Auto?
Are we?
I'm not saying what it is. It's just I got a DM saying, hey, I think this is going to be at the PlayStation showcase. I'm like, what PlayStation showcase? It's like, oh, there's a PlayStation showcase.
The one Grug keeps talking about.
I'm like, upcoming indicates soon. Is it soon? Because they just had a state of play. I'm not going to say any more because then it's like baiting me into giving the info I was told. So I'm not going to say any more. But yeah.
I really need to pee. So let's do Name a Game.
Okay.
We're back. Hello.
Okay. Buzzer is open. Are you in Buzzer? Are you in Buzz in Live?
Yes, I am now.
Okay.
I just saw your screen go white, so now I know.
I'm just on. I'm on.
Now
the
I just saw it go dark again.
Yes, I'm on the forum at the moment. I'm just picking my patron because we didn't discuss it beforehand, and I'm good like that. See, yeah, who's a pro now, motherfucker?
I was so nervous about Cliff even like showing up that I completely forgot.
Did you and Kay play? I haven't had a chance to watch.
Yes. He won.
Did you play?
Yeah, he won.
He won.
Yeah.
He won for you.
That's what I love.
All right, and we are on desktop audio. I will remember to take us off of it, but people need to hear the buzzer, goddammit. And I got the music on this time. I think we actually turned off last week.
Right, who are you playing for, Nick?
Hold on, let me just find someone quick.
I'm playing for Jordan White, aka J White 723.
Oh, I should probably show myself, shouldn't I?
Has someone played for? Oh no, they haven't. So okay, good. So I'll put that on the spreadsheet. J White 723. I will play for Stefan Selby.
All right.
That's going on the spreadsheet. Okay.
See, we're
right.
organized.
Back to my buzzing live. Back to the buzzing live.
Right. Okay. Are you watching my screen? Does this make you feel good? Are you ready? There you go.
Yeah. Okay. I still think you cheat, but whatever. Even Jesse thinks you cheat.
No, I don't.
Anyway.
I know he cheats.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was just trying to make Nick
definitely-
feel
yeah.
happy, you know?
There's 100% cheating.
Because Nick keeps losing and he was really sad, and so I'm like,
Hey,
oh,
he
everyone's
gets
cheating.
well better about this, doesn't he? Jesus H. Christ.
All right. Well, in
like
honor...
in Rocket League, I'm fine losing to a team that's better than me. I just don't like losing
most
to
of them.
bullshit.
Oh, okay. All right, bro.
All right.
All right.
I'm
This
a
week's
league.
this week's subject is third-person shooters, in honor of our guest.
Ooh, okay.
Oh,
okay.
just any generation, any third-person shooter, just
Mhm.
straight up third.
Tried to get ones people might know, you know, obviously. Yeah.
All right,
So-
okay. This is cool.
Numero uno.
I hate that I can't watch the feed to see the words because sometimes they're so long and I forget.
Oh, and also, I mean,
Yeah,
we are brought to you by, of course, Manscaped. You can go to manscaped.com.
Manscaped, yeah.
/
That's why I wore the T-shirt.
Yeah.
Because I thought that
If Cliff was doing it, yeah.
I thought we were gonna have Cliff do it, and I'm like, I don't want to do a weird
Yeah.
ad where I ask Cliff, "Did you shave your balls, Cliff?"
How's your taint,
Okay,
buddy?
Cliff is a man that shaves his balls.
Oh, 100%.
Cliff
Flux.
is a man that shaves his...
Everything.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Brazilian.
That's why I
reckon
wore
he
the
uses-
T-shirt. Next
Very
time I'll
smart.
wear the underwear, and I'll show the underwear as well.
Whoa, hey, come on.
They sent underwear too.
Pal.
They're nice.
Well, I didn't get the... no, I got the underwear. I didn't get the T-shirt.
Oh.
I got both.
I'm
Yeah.
agreed.
So go to Manscaped and use our code XboxEra for 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped. I didn't come up with the clever ad like last week. Did you see last week?
Shave your balls.
The story about the bear in the bush.
No, I haven't. I need to.
It
catch
was
up.
something.
I'll do
Boy,
while at
it
work.
was. Yeah, it's great. All right, first question. Or wait.
Okay.
First,
Yeah.
whatever we call it, in Name a Game is third-person shooters. First one. Battalion of Twain. TWAIN. Battalion of Twain. I can hear the music playing. It's so much more fun. I need to do it so you guys can hear too. I wish I could.
Battalion of Twain.
What's Twain? I know what twine is.
Mark
What's
Twain. Twain.
I know what twine.
It's a number.
Huckleberry
It's really
Finn?
hard. It's really hard to get similes for numbers.
Battalion.
Thank you,
Sik
Jesse.
Mechanico.
Oh fuck. No. Why did I suddenly think Kane and Lynch? The other one, the other terrible co-op EA game.
We're gonna start up the 10-second timer. Timer's running. 8,
Fuck.
6, 3.
Fuck.
It's run out of time. Nick Mechanico for the steal.
You're totally gonna steal this because I can't remember the name of the game. Why did I think Kane and Lynch? That doesn't even make any sense.
Army of Two.
Oh,
Correct.
fuck. Yes. Well played. I can't.
Have you
believe my
noticed? You can't
brain,
see
man.
it now, John, but there's a new scoreboard up. Unfortunately, they reversed
Yeah,
after I
looks
did them.
nice.
Yeah, they're reversed. I gotta fix that really
I
quick.
can't believe you fucked that up. That's really irritating.
I know why. I set it up for Cliff being on. This was last week's setup for you and Feasante.
Bollocks.
That
The
makes sense.
Twain threw me. The battalion part was like, I know what a battalion is. Like, I know battalion, but like, what the fuck is Twain?
Why did I go, Why did my
Twain?
brain go to Kane and fucking Lynch, man?
What is Twain?
It's cleft in twain. You are cleft in two.
There's a game that I hope Jesse's going to do here, and I reckon if I hear it, I'll know it straight away. I hope Jesse's done it. It's a one-worder, Jesse, and I reckon...
The next one is one word. It is suppression. Suppression.
Oh, it is the game.
Nick Mechanico.
John Woo?
Incorrect.
Stranglehold?
Nope. That would be John Woo's Stranglehold.
What?
No, it's not Stranglehold. Nick.
Oh, it's up to me for the steal. Suppression.
That was the game.
Suppression.
Stranglehold. Like, a stranglehold. Suppression.
I would have probably done two words on Stranglehold. Suppression.
Would you?
One word.
Suppression.
Like choking grab, you know.
Stranglehold.
Yeah, but that's not this. Suppression. The chat got it right. Everyone in the chat's just right on it. You guys are
Suppression.
always...
Holding back.
In my head, I'm like, I hope
Rest.
Jesse does Stranglehold because I reckon I'll get that one. And then you said
Fuck
suppression. I'm like, Stranglehold.
Is it Crackdown?
It is Crackdown.
Nick, how did you not get Crackdown? That's like
Because I had Stranglehold in my head. And suppression, I still think is what you could use for Stranglehold.
Kinda. I mean, it wouldn't be that funny, so I wouldn't do it, but you
You're
could.
suppressing it. That's what you are. You're suppressing it.
Brutal.
It works for Stranglehold.
All right.
Brutal.
Coming up next is a pretty easy one. Demolish all mortals. Demolish all mortals. I recently reviewed a remake of its sequel. Nick Mechanico.
Destroy all humans.
Correct.
Nice.
Oh, we have an urgent YouTube chat. Nick from RRD. What is the Xbox plus Nintendo secret? You must tell him.
Do I just take the... Do I
No,
just take
no,
the
you don't.
win on what we know, or do
No,
I continue?
that's cheating. You continue. He hasn't said yet. He's not going to say. Sorry, RRD.
This is going to follow me forever, RRD, because like...
Unless
I
they
should've
just surprise announce it.
Now, in hindsight, I wish I had just said, yeah, it was
Banjo.
Banjo and Smash. I should have just said it was and that way no one would.
You are
continue
too
to
honest.
ask me about it. I am way too honest, to my own detriment, to a fault. Like I should have just taken the win and said, hey, that deal I was alluding to, it's Banjo and Smash. I should have just done it. No, I can't say with the Xbox. I asked the other day too. I'm like, can I finally say something now because of this event that has happened?
I said
Can I
no.
now say something? They're like, no.
Next one is another one-word answer. It is not Stranglehold. It is undiscovered. Undiscovered. It's really fucking easy. Come on. It's one of the biggest. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Nick.
Hello.
For the win?
Because you didn't say Xbox, did you?
No, I just said
You didn't
third-person
say
shooters.
Xbox third-person shooters. You just said third-person shooters. So
Yeah.
in my head, I'm
Oh, it's
thinking of
Uncharted.
Xbox games. Yeah, Uncharted.
It's Uncharted, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
I was
Nick
totally
wins.
on an Xbox slant. Well done.
In my head, I'm like Xbox. Like your first thought is Xbox. You don't think third-person shooters on other consoles.
That's on you guys for being that simple-minded.
Did I just win?
You did?
Yeah, you won, man.
Oh, finally.
All right. I still
It's-
got,
it's
what,
been so long
5?
since I've won.
I got 5 more. So we're doing them,
Yeah,
goddammit.
so hold on, let me update my spreadsheet before I forget. Stefan Selby, I won. I don't even know if you watch our show anymore.
Sorry, Jordan White. Try.
I think I've only won like 2
This
or
is all
3
my
times. That's
nerd
it.
swag that Cliff was talking about when I was in the background. I normally have the green
Yeah,
screen up, but it looks weird if I'm not on camera. So I don't do it with guests around.
Okay.
All right, you ready, Nick? The next one's long. Heavenly Body Conflict, Clash Vanguard. Heavenly Body, one word, Clash Vanguard, one word. Heavenly Body, Conflict, Clash Vanguard.
Heavenly Body. Oh, I need to look at the feed. Heavenly Body Conflict, Clash Vanguard.
Mhm.
Heavenly Body Conflict.
And no, Jared Bishop is. I don't do Tom Clancy games very often because you got to say Tom Clancy, and there's no way to really do that.
Heavenly body conflict.
How would that be GOW? Clicker? Either God of War or Gears of War.
No.
How would that work?
Yeah, it's not God of War, Gears of War. Heavenly body conflict. What's the other bloody words? Clash Vanguard.
So there's 3 words in this game's title. But to do it correctly, I needed to use hyphens. So one word,
Heavenly
one
body.
word.
See, I was thinking something like Planet Side 2, but
No.
it hasn't got
body
2
is
in
like...
Planet, Heavenly Body, Planet Side.
Oh,
Nick.
no. Oh, shit. I didn't mean to buzz. Sorry.
Alright, fine, I'll clear it.
I didn't mean to
You're
buzz.
fine.
This is going to sound funny, but I was cleaning my space bucket.
Knowing you, it's not funny. No, it's normal.
Like, you would have seen me on camera go like this. I was cleaning my space bucket.
Heavenly Body is a planet. Yeah?
Is it?
Heavenly Body is a planet or a sun,
Well, what's the actual word for a sun?
star.
Heavenly body conflict. Yeah.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Shit. Star
I'm
Wars.
starting up the timer. 10 seconds. It's going. 8,
Oh,
7. You can
God.
see it. I'm buzzing.
Star Wars.
6, 5, 4,
Shit.
3, 2, 1. They could hear it. Nick, Sick.
I'm going to go with Battlefront is the only one that makes sense. Vanguard is the first unit over the wall.
It was Star Wars Battlefront.
I knew it was one of the older Star Wars games.
That's a
but
good
I
one,
couldn't
goddammit.
remember.
That's a good one. That was a
Thank
good
you.
one. Well played.
Thank you.
I couldn't remember.
I took my time looking on that one. All right. We got 4 more. First up. And hopefully they don't take as long. Or maybe they do. People like being around here. Keep sending super chats. We'll go all night. We have
I need to pee. I need to pee.
Slain Volume.
Slain is in kill.
Yes, Slain,
Yes.
Slain Volume. Slain Volume. Hey, StreamYard's running like shit right now.
Is it?
It is for
Oh,
me.
what's wrong with it?
Okay, caught back up. It was going really shitty for a little bit.
Looks
but for me,
okay on my end, yeah.
yeah. But on the stream, it's probably looking pretty shitty. But it's caught up.
Kill.
Volume.
Slain Volume. 2 words. Slain Volume. I have reviewed this game 2 times.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Slain.
One time, it did not have a score. It had really
Oh, 'cause it
cool
was
retro artwork.
retro. Because it was retro.
Mechanica.
I
It
just
was
got it as well. It's
retro.
fucking Dead
'Cause it
Space,
was
isn't it?
retro. Dead Space.
Yep, Dead Space.
Wow.
Yeah.
Volume.
I was
space.
thinking kill. I'm going.
Yeah, kill switch. I was like, but kill
Is it
switch is
kill
a fucking-
switch. Is it kill? I'm thinking kill. I'm like, no, kill zone is first person shooter. I'm like, kill.
All right. Next up is 1 word. Again, not stranglehold. Authority. Authority.
Oh, why
God
did I
damn it.
do
All right,
that?
fine.
Why
Clear
would you
buzzer.
Doing that.
Cleared.
Why do you
Authority.
Doing that.
You do it
I'm
again, you
taking my
get
hand
a.
off it.
You do it
Nice.
again, you.
I'm taking my hand off it.
Yeah, you do it one more time, you lose, and your win goes to
So
Nick.
hold on.
Sick.
Authority.
I like
It's just
that. I like
authority.
Yeah, just
okay.
the word authority.
It's just authority.
Authority. What is an authority?
Third person shooter. Authority.
I thought this one was really simple.
You're the boss. You're the authority. You're.
In
You think of the different
charge.
ways authority can be used.
Oh!
Nick.
You're the boss. You're in control.
Correct.
Hey!
Pepe got it in the chat.
Promotion.
Hmm.
What?
Pepe got it in the chat. The meme. The living meme is in chat. Pepe. Little frog man.
What living meme?
No, the Pepe meme. The little frog. He's even got the
I don't know
frogman
what you're talking
avatar.
about. I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Pepe, the meme.
I know who Pepe is. The meme.
Yeah, I know. I'm not looking at the chat. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm saying he got it correct a while ago, and I'm saying good job,
Yeah,
Pepe.
cross promotion, control. Hey.
You're missing the rose. All right.
Make sure you go to drinkcontrol.com/XboxEra and you use that code for 10% off. And oh my god, I put a scoop of control
In pancake
my
mix.
pancakes
You
yesterday.
told me it was really
Oh
good.
my god, it was so nice with
Yeah.
control in it. Oh
Mhm.
my god.
Shockingly enough, a flavor powder helped another powder taste better.
Yeah. Oh my god. But
All
what I do is I prepare my pancake mix the night before and I leave it in the fridge overnight.
Mhm.
What I've discovered is when you put control into pancake mix and leave it overnight, it basically becomes sponge cake. So I had to add way more milk to like loosen it back up again. But oh my god, my wife doesn't actually like control. It's too sweet for her. But she actually loved control in the pancakes. So man, so damn good.
Brilliant advertising. Next one is
Okay.
the conclusion of We.
Wait, the buzzer.
The conclusion of We.
WE? Okay.
The conclusion of
I've
We.
switched back and forth.
Sik and Mechanico.
Conclusion of it.
It's got to be The Last of Us.
Correct.
I barely had time to even think about it.
And the last one's real stupid as I click clear buzzer. It is Inhabitant Not Very Nice Quartet. Not very nice, one word. Inhabitant Not Very Nice Quartet. Last one.
Inhabitant. Hold on. I think the not very nice part is actually the part that's getting me close.
It's edging you. I'm getting you close.
Inhabitant.
Oh, would I be right in thinking
Nick and Mechanico.
I know. Yeah. The not very nice quartet because Jesse's always doing the number thing. It's Resident Evil 4, isn't it?
Correct.
well played? That's got to be that.
And that is Name a
Damn.
Game.
Yeah.
We'll see
Wow.
all of you later.
Good fun. Well played. Well played. I think that does bring us to the end of the show. And
No.
this man.
No.
No.
There's a
is
couple
his
more.
plan.
There's a
Again, we
couple
have
more
questions. You don't get to pick.
community questions.
Go take a piss and we'll do some community questions.
Nah, it's all right.
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
hold
yeah.
it.
Okay, we only have
I've
a
got
couple.
bladder
Only a couple.
full of stone.
You are British.
A couple of community questions. Like, these timestamps. Everyone, if these timestamps are a bit late, you'll know why.
So there was
There's
more in
only
Hytham's.
There's only three. There's three. It's
Later
nothing.
today.
Well, there's more to Hytham.
Was there though?
There was.
Yeah, there's a PS for what's our favourite
Okay.
games on the Quad Force.
On the Quad Force. What's the Quad Force?
Oh, wait, I put 'em-
So I guess he means what's our top 4 favourite games.
What's your
'Cause he's
favorite
put-
games on the Quad Force? Because my favorites are first Halo franchise, second Smash Ultimate, third Overwatch, fourth Genshin Impact. But what about your guys' favorite games in the Quad Force?
It's a new term, termed by
Yeah.
Hytham G, the Quad Force.
Yeah.
What's your top 4 favourite games or franchises?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my Quad Force is probably. I mean, It's just Halo's just hanging in there. Halo, Metroid.
Yeah.
Because I realized I just love all the Metroid games.
I played Now or Metroid Prime Remastered. I was good after that.
Zelda. Jeez, because it needs to be a franchise. What would the fourth one be? I'm
Mario.
trying to think of games that like there's a long-standing franchise where I love them all, and
You and Mario. Your only perfect game ever.
yeah, but it's not all the Mario games that I'm like I love to death. Mario Odyssey is definitely one. Maybe my fourth is Punch Out.
I mean, that's a choice.
I've loved
Um,
all the Punch Out games, all of them. There's only been
Mine-
3, but
Yeah,
Punch Out.
I think Halo obvs. I would love to say Ori and the Blind Forest is a franchise, right? I can throw that in there. Can I throw that
Crackdown.
in there?
If I'm counting it to 3 games, Crackdown as well.
And I want to say that Inside and Limbo and all of those are a franchise, but they're not. But they're just very
Not
similar.
really.
Not really. So after that, I mean, geez, we're. I could probably say. Yeah, I did. Mass Effect's one of my favorite game series of all time.
Even if you don't love Andromeda's story, it still plays unbelievably well.
And then for shits and giggles, let's chuck in.
Leisure Suit Larry.
No, I would chuck in Sea of Thieves because it's a franchise now.
No,
right?
It's not. It's one game.
Yeah, it's a franchise, mate. It's just going to live forever. Minecraft's a franchise. It's one game. Oh, wait, now there's 3 games. You wait. Sea of Thieves would be a franchise. Hitman, maybe. But,
The next spin-off for Sea of Thieves is going to be Sea of Beebs, a Justin Bieber game.
Yeah.
Be huge.
I don't know what genre.
Okay. Ben Angelo. What's going on, guys? First time poster, long time viewer. My question is, what games are you looking forward to releasing in 2023 and beyond? Mine would have to be RoboCop Rogue City.
Good choice.
Rogue City or Rogue City? Because he spelled it as Rouge. I just want to make sure I'm getting it right.
Yeah,
Rogue?
It's Rogue City.
Okay,
it's
Rogue City. Cheers, Ben. For 2023, Ben Fox. And there was Zelda. Tears of the Kingdom. Although I am somewhat concerned about Zelda now that I've seen it's kind of just DLC for Breath of the Wild with like Banjo-Kazooie vehicles.
Did you read the conspiracy theory that one of the hardware leakers from Nintendo was actually banned from the forum he posted in? And the moderator said it was at Nintendo's request because apparently the Super Switch is going into production and they want to keep it under wraps.
Something like that, but I think there was a mix-up there. I don't know if that's solely the story, but I'm staying away from that Nintendo stuff.
It's wise. It's wise.
Yeah, for this year, probably Zelda, Ben Fox. I'm even kind of looking forward to Party Animals. That actually looks pretty cool.
If only there was a really good article that had everything that's coming to Xbox in 2023 somewhere online where we could go and read.
Yeah.
Read and understand like what games are coming.
Yeah. GoldenEye was one of mine. I already got it. Dead Space was one of mine. I already got it. I mean Jedi Survivor because I did like what was it called? What was the first one called? Why have I forgotten what the first game's called?
I don't know.
What was the first one?
I can't remember.
Jedi Survivor.
Oh, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, Fallen Order. I just went so blank on Fallen Order, and I don't know why. Yeah, Jedi Survivor. I'm looking forward to. Beyond, Perfect Dark. For sure. Indiana Jones. I don't know what else. That Disney Illusion Island looks cool, man.
I'll have to refresh my memory on that one.
The one that Delilah is making for the Switch. The Mickey Mouse one.
My
Illusion
only issue
Island,
is it's a little too far zoomed out. I wish it was a little zoomed in.
It is weird how zoomed out it is, isn't it?
Yeah. They're so tiny. They're little teeny tiny.
Yeah, it's at that. Yeah, I thought about
That's
that.
why we're being short, guys.
Yeah. Anyway,
you live longer, but whoopty shit.
Yeah,
be on this awful planet.
I mean, for me, Redfall. I quite like the look of Flintlock. I've got Planet of Lana, Cocoon.
Did you hit up the article I wrote where you can see every game that's coming?
I'm literally looking at it right now to refresh my memory. Party Enemies replaced Starfield.
Yeah, replaced. Diablo.
Fucking the Plucky Squire. Don't sleep on that motherfucker.
Squire.
You know, if you care about the Plucky Squire, spend like $10 or $20 whenever it's on sale and get RPG Time: The Legend of Right. That game is awesome, especially if you ever played it with your kids. It's
Plucky Squire looks amazing.
RPG time rules.
Like that trailer for Plucky Squire, and when you see that moment where it just goes, "Hey, look, full 3D game," and you're just like, "Oh, what do you mean?" It's so
and
good.
then you've got Diablo.
I just said Diablo before.
Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking. My God, there's so many games coming this year. It's insane.
But there's already been so many, and yet there's even more coming.
And there'll be stuff that's not announced. There'll be enough. A Sifu. Oh my God, I can't wait to review Sifu. I've played it. Like I have technically. I played it on my brother's Steam Deck. It's very good.
But yeah, man.
So yeah, spoiler alert: my review score for Sifu is probably going to be fairly high.
If it's a bad quality port, that could lower it. You never know.
Yes, I haven't played the Xbox version yet, but I've played it on Steam Deck, and it was very good. Sifu, it's good. Okay, J White 723. Hey guys, even with the new positive info regarding the EU, what do you believe would be a larger negative impact to the Xbox ecosystem? The ABK deal falling through, or Starfield not succeeding performance-wise and critical acclaim, as well as they had planned? Hoping for neither, but curious on your thoughts. I reckon Starfield sucking would have a way bigger impact. Way bigger impact than ABK not going through. Starfield sucking, that would be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and everyone will be like, you know what? Xbox is done. They can't make good games. Like, they'll conveniently ignore the smaller games that were good, like Hi-Fi Rush and Grounded and whatever.
It's facing a lot of really unfair pressure, let's be honest.
Yes, which we've said all along. But Starfield, and I mean genuinely sucking, not bullshit sucking, where it's like 85 Metacritic and everyone's like, oh my God, it sucks. 85 Metacritic, it's the worst game ever. Even though like Horizon,
yeah, we'd have to be in like the 70s,
Spider-Man,
the 60s and the 70s.
I mean genuinely suck, like 67 on Metacritic for a AAA full-on Bethesda RPG. That kind of level of suck. I don't mean bullshit toxic fanboy something in the 80s sucks, because that doesn't suck.
Here's a fun game, and chat, join in. Which outlet is going to be the douchebags that deliberately give a low score to Starfield?
Ooh, that's a fun game.
With a line of No Man's Sky did it better. Go on, anyone.
Hold on. But there's got to be context around this. So the context is that most of the reviews are like in the 8s, 9s,
glowingly
and 10s.
Positive. Who's the outlier?
Yes. Who is the
Brit
outlier?
Hit it pretty hard. Brit got it good with Metro.
Yeah, he's right.
I think Metro already copped enough with Hi-Fi Rush. It'll be someone else that will take
They love the
hit.
clicks, man. What do they care?
It'll be someone else that'll take that hit. I'm just trying to think.
Do Push Square review anything that isn't PlayStation?
I don't think Push Square do they? I don't think they do. I reckon this one will be one of the bigger outlets, like bigger. Like Scourge is onto something when he says GameSpot. I reckon it'll be one of those big ones, like an Edge or a GameSpot. Even IGN might shock everyone. Even IGN might shock everyone with like a 6 or something.
Arcane games review very well. Like Deathloop was an 88, 87. Now Redfall being, instead of PlayStation exclusive, being Xbox exclusive.
Suddenly it's a terrible game.
Get knocked down by 5 to 10 points.
Which one? Which one?
Redfall. Because we'll see that one first.
Oh yeah. Redfall will, Redfall.
The Xbox.
I don't know, Jesse P. Jesse P. I think is saying. Is Jesse P. supposed to be saying?
I think he's saying VGC. Yeah.
Is he supposed to be saying VGC?
I would imagine so. Yeah. Chronicle Games.
I don't know if VGC. It might depend on who at VGC, whom reviews it at VGC. It might depend. Because I first thought VGC, but I'm like, Andy's already copped enough shit for what he said about Xbox being sold off. I don't know if he'll want to then be the outlier for Starfield as well and cop more abuse. And it's unfair to call them outliers. Like you want to assume that everyone's review is honest. I mean,
I was
no,
way
for a
off
fact.
beat with Scourge. I gave Scourge a 4, and yet that ended up being like in the 6s and 7s for most.
I'm just saying, like, I want to believe that the vast majority of outlier reviews are honest. You can tell the ones that aren't, like
the 1 out of 10 for
Hogwarts.
Hogwarts.
Yeah, the Hogwarts 1 out of 10, the IB Times 4 out of 10 for Forza Horizon 4.
Oh my god, that
Playground seems like they're overdoing this. Oh god, this game sucks. Shut up, you idiots. Like, you can tell the ones that are fake, but you can usually read it in the words, the ones that the outliers that are genuine, like that's just what they thought about the game. So because I feel like painting them all as outliers makes them all seem disingenuous fake reviews, but they're not.
Do you
Like,
think
some of them-
somebody will go with a 0 out of 10 on PlayStation simply because it's not there as a statement about Xbox stealing the game?
I don't think
And
they'll
there's
be
just a
allowed
blank
to do that.
screen. Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. I reckon with Starfield, it's going to be one of the bigger outlets. Like, if Starfield's getting a lot of hype and a lot of positive reviews, there's going to be that website that's like, oh, we've got a real chance for some clicks. Let's get those clicks. Let's our words are going to say 9 out of 10, but our score's going to say 6. Let's get those clicks. Let's get them. There's got to be that one outlet that does it.
It makes me
know
sick.
Makes me
sick.
know it. You just know it.
Nope.
The editor's going to come along, like the head, and they're going to be like, get those clicks up. I know what your words speak glowingly, and it seems like you loved Starfield, but just find a way to get that 6 in there. Come on.
You know, if you look at
blame it on performance.
If you look at the last 2 Bethesda Game Studio proper games, they had a 96 on Skyrim, but then they only had an 88 on Fallout 4. So is it going to be like an 80 and 82? And it just,
But that's still a good score. Like,
it's a fantastic
anything
score.
in anything in the 80s is still a great score. This is the funny part.
And
like,
I think that it's actually much better now than it used to be because overall scores are just lower for most things. You look at old Metacritic, and old Metacritic has tons of 90s. You don't get that often anymore. You get a couple a year maybe for 90. And they're very specific things.
But you got to remember,
at the start.
There's a lot more reviewers now than there was back then.
If you look at Skyrim's Metacritic, there's 90 on the Xbox 360, 89 reviews.
Yeah, but
total.
I'm talking if you go back to Genesis, if you go back to if you go all the
I
way
even
back,
just mean
there was just
360.
less sites reviewing games back then. So that higher average is going to be there for a reason. I still feel like 10s are given more often now than they were back then.
No, not at all.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they
Hey,
are.
do you want to know the good news though?
What?
That was the last
Chicken
community question.
Oh, it was. Oh, you get to go pee.
I get to go pee, right?
Yeah.
That was me delicately and diplomatically.
We were about to
bringing a guillotine down on this tangent.
I like that game though. I like the Guess the Outlier. I reckon.
It's great.
Out of that one. I reckon that's great.
You should make a forum post, Nick, and people can suggest sites, and then
we'll see who wins.
We'll
see who wins.
Guess the Outlier. I reckon that's a good one. I like that. That's a good one. Guess the Outlier. That's cool.
There's always one when it's a big game with loads of marketing hype before it, especially if it's on Xbox. There's going to be a
I didn't even know Wired. I didn't know Wired reviewed games until that 1 out of 10 Hogwarts. So it did its job. I heard about Wired, didn't I?
Yeah. Will you go to them for game reviews?
Nope. I'll never ever go to them for a review, but I heard about them.
Yeah,
and I got a lot of clicks
once. There you go. Anyway,
I said at the time, I'm like, you've sacrificed long-term engagement for short-term engagement.
If it's important to them, it's important to them. Anyway, chat, it's been an absolute blast. What a show. 150 episodes in. The XboxEra podcast continues to go from strength to strength.
Now we work on getting Phil again for 200.
And we work on our Patreon exclusive podcast, which I promise is still coming.
We've seen an animated logo intro for Sik and Nick flicks, which was...
we showed it last week.
Did you? Last week. Cool. That's good. Yeah. I like it. But yeah, we'll be back same time next weekend. Until then, stay safe.
No
play some
guests.
great games.
There'll be no guests next week.
No guests next weekend. Just us, just our pretty faces.
I've almost ticked off all the targets that we had when we started this podcast. We wanted Phil, we wanted Seamus, I wanted Cliff. Yeah, we've almost ticked off all the targets.
Peter Moore is the big one. He's the
Peter Moore is the next one. Peter Moore.
Don Matrick.
I'll have to find a way that doesn't involve that other podcast.
Seriously, Don Matrick. You make Don Matrick happen. Can you imagine a podcast episode with Don Matrick?
Isn't he living in a cave somewhere? How am I supposed to?
He's just doing venture capital stuff up in Canada. He's happy.
We could be just like, Don, come on, you can talk any old shit you want. Come on,
bad
mouth.
I've got this brilliant NFT venture capitalist idea for you. Come on our podcast and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, there's plenty of good names left out there. Todd Howard would be good to get. I can see.
I know there's plenty of other guests to have, but I'm saying there was like a handful of when we first started this, there was like a handful that I was like, these ones we have to get on someday.
I still would love to get Larry Herb on.
Yeah.
I'd love to get
Sarah Bond
if he fancies it.
Sarah Bond.
Tim Schafer. My God, Tim Schafer.
Todd Howard.
Jack Black. You know, I'll speak to Tim. Can you
Henry Cavill? I still want Henry Cavill.
Anyway, look, I do really
messaged him on Instagram. I haven't heard anything back.
But hey, it's been a pleasure chat as always. It's good to be back. We love you lots. As always, to our patrons, because we didn't really get to thank them this week. We'll end on that. It's been all over the place today. To our patrons that support XboxEra in everything that we do, we love you guys. You enable us to do so much cool stuff for this community. And hey, let's see if we can get to LA for E3 for the first time this year. Let's make it happen. We need to start looking at hotels though, like right fucking now, because they're gonna get booked up.
Yeah.
Let's
it's LA, isn't it? It's not Vegas. It's LA. Yeah.
It's LA. Yeah.
I was gonna say if it's Vegas, I'll just stay at MVG's.
Yeah, let's see if we can find some friends in there.
I'll just stay at MVG's place. But LA is a bit different.
Beast Mode.
I think we've got a few friends. I think we have some friends in the Discord that are in LA. I may just crash at one of their joints.
Beast Mode, for the record, when is the book coming? Yeah, I guess we didn't get the chance because we were chatting through with Cliffy. The final file is done. It has been handed off to the publishers. The good news is we worked out a good deal with them. Not only are they going to produce the book, but they're also going to arrange for all the packaging for me, which makes it a lot easier to then organize the shipment company to just get it out to you guys. Looking at, they've ballparked it 8 weeks for production. They've had the file since last week. I've got a meeting with them Monday afternoon, just to finalize a couple of bits. But we're trucking. It's done. It's being made. It's the final hurdle. Thank God. And yeah, looking forward to it being in your hand. To those of us that have asked, can I buy the book after the fact? Yes, we will explore putting the book on our merch store. It won't be as epic quality hand bound. It will be more like an Amazon print on demand job, but we will check that the quality is up to our standard. And if it's good enough, we'll make the book available to purchase as a physical book via the XboxEra merch store in some fashion. So stay tuned, more to come. But yes, it's on its way.
By the way, we have a merch store.
And I just got a DM. I just got a DM. I can rumor mill the thing next week. No, next week.
Oh,
next
okay.
Week.
Okay, I really need to pay. I can't deal with the 20-minute rumor mill right now.
I literally just sent the DM now saying, can I rumor mill that next week? And they're like, yep. Just make sure you say these things. I'm like, okay.
Cool. On that
next week, rumor mill.
There you go. Anything coming up on the site next week, Jesse, while we're on the subject?
Yep, we got the Dead Cells DLC for Castlevania coming. We've got Clash Artifacts of Chaos coming. We've got other stuff coming from our very hardworking review team that hopefully, since Ursul's back from Halo Championship Series, he can help make videos for. We got lots of stuff coming. Motocross games and many things. So yes, all of them.
There you go.
Boy, it's hard to keep up with.
I know. It's not. We're not even in the stretch of the crazy period yet.
That's right, Gary. It is time for some control now that the show's over.
No,
my brother rang me. He's like, man, There's this Gary Barrick guy buys a lot of Control. Like, yeah, man. It's like, man, he buys a lot of Control. I'm like, yeah, clearly loves it.
Good for him.
Like, it's good.
Right. We love you guys. We'll see you next week. Adios.
All right. Ciao for now.